have two pitchers, and then plus 2 days
It
2
turned
days
out
later
that
you're
the
playing
loser in
again. Hello, sir.
Hey, Darrell.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see
it's,
that.
it's a tripping hand. Trying to get your other knee.
I see that. I take care of that one.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you all for being here this evening. And thank you to those that are joining us via our live stream and at a later date. We appreciate your participation and interest in the city of Nampa and the work that's being done here. So welcome. I think we will open with prayer. And Pablo, oh my goodness, I'm always so bad on these last names. Are you here this evening? Yes, you are. Come on up. And would you introduce yourself? And I'll let you say your name correctly. And thank you for being here to open us in prayer.
Okay, my name is Pablo Carrion, and I coming to offer the invocation today from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I belong to the Nampa 18th Ward, and then I will be offering the invocation.
Thank you. So we will stand, and we are so glad
Oh,
you're
okay.
here. We will
Thank you.
stand for your prayer, and then after your prayer, we will say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our beloved Father that dwell in heaven, we have come here as citizens of this great city. We come with devotion, with a desire to do this place better for us and for our children. We express gratitude for the many beautiful blessings that has been given to us. We feel blessed. We recognize thy hand in all the things that we do. Father, in this time we would like to express gratitude for the opportunity of speaking to thee, saying the prayer in public and in private. We express gratitude because we had this right, and we are deeply grateful for this. Please give us the guidance that we need in the direction of the growth and the protection in this city. Please bless us as a citizens and also as a leaders, that we can do our part to strengthen and to help the poor and the people that may need help. Please help us to be instruments in thy hands. It is our prayer and devotion before thee. In the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pablo, thank you for opening us in prayer. As we open the meeting, let's do roll call.
Rodriguez,
Here.
Bruner, Hogaboom,
Here.
Levi,
Present.
Haverfield,
Here.
Skog.
Here.
Okay, proposed amendments to the agenda. We have two amendments to the agenda. We are going to be removing item number 1-7C from the agenda, from the consent agenda, and we will cover that at a later time. We are also going to be removing item number, find it back here. It's our public hearing that is on the agenda, 8-2. This is a public hearing related to Greenbrier Estates. That is actually there in error, and we will not be hearing that hearing this evening. So that will also be removed from the agenda. I don't believe there are any other amendments to the agenda. Unless council, do you have any questions or amendments to our agenda this evening?
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. I did have a question regarding one item, but speaking with the fire chief, everything's taken care of. Thank you.
Okay. Any other suggested amendments? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor?
I'm sorry, yes?
Thank you. I would move that we approve the consent agenda with the 2 addition and deletions so mentioned.
I'll second that.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Hogaboom,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Gog,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Levi.
Yes.
All righty. Okay. So we have 2 proclamations this evening. And our first proclamation is related to National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I would like to go ahead and read that proclamation. Whereas domestic violence impacts women, men, and children of every age, background, and belief. Whereas nearly 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men in the United States have suffered severe physical violence by an intimate partner. Victims are deprived of their autonomy, liberty, and security and face tremendous threats to their health and safety. Whereas in November, the Nampa Family Justice Center will mark its 13th anniversary of serving families in a crisis. Whereas since November 2005, the Nampa Family Justice Center has served 25,242 adults and 14,124 children suffering from family violence, and each year there are more served than the previous. Whereas the Nampa Family Justice Center, one of the original 15 centers funded by the President's Family Justice Center Initiative of 2003, continues to mold its programming and services to provide the best services in one location for clients and help them successfully maneuver through the justice system. Whereas we celebrate new and stronger partnerships with the local law enforcement agencies and hospitals and to further enhance services for sexual assault clients. Whereas the Nampa Family Justice Center rightfully prides itself on the strong partnerships it has created within the community in collaboration between government and nonprofit organizations to provide coordinated services to women, men, and children suffering from family violence. Whereas it is fitting for the Nampa Family Justice Center to celebrate its 13th anniversary 1 month early to coincide with National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Now therefore, I, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, Idaho, do hereby proclaim October 2018 as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Nampa, and continue to pledge support to those in need and recognize the advocates, victim service providers, and organizations who work tirelessly to extend hope and healing to victims and survivors every day. I would like to personally say thank you to those that are serving and work so diligently. And I believe, is Crisilda here? There you are. Would you like to come up? I'm going to hand this to you, and then I'll let you say a couple words. Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to Crisilda for all of her work. She has an amazing staff, and you work very diligently, and it's greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for having me here today and for declaring the month of October National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. You know, I had a little speech worked out to kind of say my thanks and tell you what we do, but you know, earlier today we were at the Canyon County Courthouse, and we were two stories were shared by two different families that were affected by family violence and where these women lost their lives. And the sheriff called all the people that are involved when a domestic violence situation arises. And it gave me a really good picture and a really good idea of how important the work that we do is and how important it is to have all the participants, the agencies, and people involved to just help that one family. And it takes a lot of resources. It takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of kind hearts and resources, a lot of financial resources that go into this. But we need to continue the work. We need to continue on focusing on our kids because that is where we're going to make the difference, educating our adults, focusing on our kids, giving them the right guidance and education and love, and that's how we're going to curb this issue of domestic violence. So that's all I have for you today, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And on a little bit lighter note, we have another proclamation. This is for General Aviation Appreciation Month. And this one says, whereas the city of Nampa in the state of Idaho has a significant interest in the continued vitality of general aviation, aircraft manufacturing, aviation educational institutions, aviation organizations, and community airports, and whereas general aviation at the Nampa Municipal Airport have an immense economic impact on Nampa. And whereas general aviation not only supports Idaho's economy, it improves overall quality of life by supporting emergency medical and healthcare services, law enforcement, firefighting, and disaster relief, and by transporting business travelers to their destinations quickly and safely. And whereas the nation's aviation infrastructure represents an important public benefit, and congressional oversight should be in place to ensure stable funding of this system. Now therefore, I, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, Idaho, do hereby proclaim general aviation a vital strategic resource to the City of Nampa and declare October as General Aviation Appreciation Month in the City of Nampa. And here to touch bases with us is Monty from our Nampa Airport. Monty, thank you for being here. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for what you do, Monty. Please share with us briefly.
I'd like to say a few words. Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mayor. I've been around airports since I was 10 years old. My dad was a private pilot, and I've been around. I stop at airports when I'm traveling. The City of Nampa has a gem of an airport, truly does. It has green space. It has a wonderful variation of tenants, of pilots, business people, corporate aircraft, light aircraft. We even have gliders, which is a whole lot of fun to watch those guys go. Some of the questions I get about general aviation is what is general aviation? General aviation is any aviation that's not associated with a major airline or the military. Few facts. General aviation consists of the largest number of aircraft and pilots and accounts for the largest number of hours, flying hours in the U.S. 3 out of every 4 takeoffs and landings in the U.S. are general aviation aircraft. And this is a good one. Approximately 70% of all general aviation is associated with some sort of commercial activity. So having a wonderful airport is definitely a benefit to our airport, or to our city. And I thank you all for your support. Couple of things. Our airport was established in 1928. So coming up, 90 years now. And so we'll probably start planning on our 100-year centennial here soon, huh? We have 3 full-time employees. Our airport consists of 243 acres. 70 acres of that are asphalt that have to be maintained. We have a single runway. It's 5,000 feet long. It can accommodate corporate jets of medium size, all the way down to ultralights and gliders. We have about 300 based aircraft and their pilots. We have about 90,000 operations a year, which is takeoff or landing. We are part of the NIPIAS, the National Plan of Integrated Airport System. We're one of 3,300 airports in the United States that are part of that, and that makes us eligible for federal and state grants for our capital improvement projects. We are the proud world headquarters of Mission Aviation Fellowship, MAF. So we actually have worldwide influence. We have planes leaving here that are doing great things all around the world, taking the word to the world. We have the Warhawk Air Museum, which is a premier air museum, World War II, Korean, and now Vietnam Air Museum. They have events monthly. They have veterans events. Every year they have the Warbird Roundup. It's become one of the top Warbird Roundup of events of the year in the country. We have clubs. We have the Civil Air Patrol, which is an auxiliary of the United States Air Force. So they do search and rescue, do great things for our young people. We have T-Craft, which is a aero club for I think they have about 7, 8 aircraft now. They're actually building another hangar to accommodate another 5 aircraft. So those are, if you don't want to own your own aircraft, you can join the T-Craft Aero Club and fly with them. We have the Experimental Aircraft Association, or the enthusiasts of home-built aircraft. It's a thriving club out at the airport, meets once a month. And we have the Top Fun Flyers, and they fly the ultralight style aircraft, which is interesting as well. We are the home of 3 maintenance shops, 3 aircraft maintenance shops. We have an air research charter company that started about 5 years ago. We had 1 aircraft. They do wildlife surveys and stuff for the Northwest states here. They're up to about 5 aircraft now. We have helicopters, large heavy lift helicopters that do heavy lift and firefighting. We have 3 flight schools. We have 3 aircraft sales, and we have a best general aviation cafe in the Northwest. I never want to skip that. Nate Lundskrig out there has the Tower Grill. If you're ever out in that direction for breakfast or lunch, it's definitely worth checking out, and we really are happy to have him. We're just beginning a new airport master plan, so we'll be asking for support for that, and you'll be receiving information on that. So again, I'd just like to thank you. One final thing, I would just like to, the state of Idaho did an economic impact report on our airport. Unfortunately, it was in 2009. They're working on a new one now. It's supposed to be due or completed in June or July of 19. But back in 2009, the Napa Municipal Airport had an economic impact, total payroll of $11 million, which had a first round impact of $27.4 million, second round impact of $15.9 million, for a total economic impact, this is in 2009, of $43.3 million. So I really look forward to this summer, because I expect that number to be quite higher, and just appreciate the chance. I'm a very proud airport manager. I love the airport. Like I say, I've seen many airports, and we are a gem for what we do. I think we do it very well, and with our master plan, we're going to do it even better. So I thank you for this opportunity.
Monty, thank you. You do a wonderful job, and it is something that we can be very proud of. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I found that interesting. Isn't that good info? Yeah, very interesting. This is the next section on the agenda is the opportunity for someone to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item. And I would like to start with, is there anyone here to speak on a non-agenda item?
Mayor Glean,
Okay.
could we ask Priscilla to come back up and talk about Family Justice Center receiving an award, right?
Yes, we certainly can.
Okay, I think we should. That's a fundraiser for, right, Priscilla?
There's a couple of things going on.
Well, let's hear it.
Okay.
You know, as I went and sat back down, I thought there's a lot of things that I can cover, and I'm not sure how much time you have for me, but thank you for calling me back, because I
You're
will
welcome.
share. So one of the, well, I'll start with the national award. So we received a $300,000 grant from the Office on Violence Against Women, and we just got notified on Friday, so today's Monday, I haven't even accepted the award yet. But a few months, maybe a year ago, we were talking about how our elder abuse problems that we have in the area really don't have a lot of exposure, because there is very little funding and few services. And so when we submitted for this grant back in November of 17, you know, they give 1 in 5. So fast forward, less than a year later, we were notified that we are a recipient, so we will be accepting that award and assisting our community. An elder to the federal government is anyone over the age of 50. So
That'd be me.
that's the qualifying age, although we know that that's not old at all. So I'm very excited to start working on that award and that initiative, and just give us some more power and be able to cover more ground to cover that population specifically. The other national recognition that we are starting with, and that we will be full force tomorrow, is the Purple Purse campaign, and it's a national campaign with 300 organizations nationwide. In the division that we are in, there are 86 agencies that are in our little small but mighty division, and we are one of 2 in the state of Idaho that are participating in this campaign, and the only one in the Treasure Valley. The other city is up north through the YWCA. So we are very far apart in distance, but we will be promoting that nonetheless. And part of that campaign is, of course, to highlight the Justice Center, and it is to fundraise for our center and for the victims that we serve. And it's a very much highlights the financial abuse that people go through, and one of the major issues into why people stay in domestic violence situations. So those are two of the highlights that we have going on right now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing those, and thank you again.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Is there anyone else? So I didn't see any hands on a non-agenda item. Now, I think we have a few people here to speak on an agenda item. And can you raise your hand if you're here to speak on an agenda item? There's one. Do we have others speaking tonight on an agenda item? Possibly? Okay. So I think, are these related to the agenda item? I've got to find it here, which is 6.2 on the agenda. Okay, so how many people want to speak to 6.2 on the agenda? Because we'll have 3 minutes. 1, 2, okay. I'm going to have you speak to that agenda item just prior to that agenda item, okay? So we'll hold that. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on an agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. This is...
Excuse me, Mayor.
So,
I assume we would be speaking on that item, not in addition to, so in terms of being ahead of that item, just FYI.
yeah, you'll be speaking right, yes. We're good. Okay, this is the section on the agenda where the mayor and council can have comments, and I do have just a couple comments, but I wanted to say, does council have any comments that they would like to, or any updates or anything that they would like to share?
Mayor, council, there's a new German deli. Perhaps you've seen it on 2nd Street South. It's delicious. They provide ample samples. Just go in there and ask for samples, and very friendly people, and hopefully this German deli makes it. All right.
Did you bring any?
Did you,
I didn't bring any.
I'm hungry, yeah, whoa. I can't wait to go. Is there any other updates? I do have just a couple updates, and I just wanted to share with the directors and the city. This morning, I meet with the directors prior to council meetings, and today is the beginning of a new year for us. This is the first day of our new fiscal year. It's October 1. And so what I did was we kind of recapped. I did a quick recap, and I'm going to do this for you just really fast. I'll try to be really fast. Accomplishments, what we have accomplished. And as I sat and listened, thought about what we've gotten done, I wasn't here the full year. I can just speak to since I've been here, but we've had busy staff. So when I mention these accomplishments, this is not me. This is the work that's being done in this room. We have an amazing team, and I want to say 2 things. One, we have an amazing staff. Our directors and the employees of this city are working hard, and I so appreciate them and all the work they do. We're not perfect, but there's good effort, and that's awesome. And the other thing I want to say is I so appreciate our council, because the work that you guys have to do every 2 weeks, the amount you have to read, and then all the places you have to show up. You guys work diligently on behalf of the citizens of this community, and I want to say thank you, and thank you to our legal counsel, but thank you for the work you do. So we started the year with assessments and deep dives, which are going to take us into our strategic planning process, and you guys are probably familiar with that, and it also is on our website. We got the bond approved. That was a heavy lift, a $165 million bond with almost 87% approval rate. That's pretty amazing. And then we certainly are continuing to work on the wastewater treatment plant and the bond. We did establish the Citizen Committee, and they've met one time. They've begun their work, and we have good input on that Citizens Committee, which I greatly appreciate. And we're also working on the parallel path and have met with legal on that. The union negotiations, both for fire and police, were successfully completed. And that, it took some people, Rick Hogeboom, Bruce Skog, that worked, Bobby Sanchez from our office, and then the administration, both from police and fire, and then their team. And it was a good negotiation with good outcomes, and I'm very pleased with that. We have an item on the agenda later tonight, which is talking about space for the city. That's not been an easy lift, identifying where are we going, and the lease of property and the potential purchase of property. Again, it's pretty exciting because that's going to take us down the road 10 to 20 years, which is so important. Currently, we're working on one of our confidential Project Bronco projects that we have coming in, which is the largest business to ever come to this community. It's massive. The impact that has gone into that just with the traffic impact alone, looking at what the impact for job, with the employees and the traffic impacts, that has taken us to the discussion and consideration of widening of Franklin and a number of other updates to our transportation infrastructure system. Also Highway 16. Highway 16 that some are aware of, we've talked about a southbound ramp, and with this coming, the opportunity to look at a southbound ramp, which is very important to me. I think if we're going to be doing an exchange like that, we ought to be considering what the southbound route is, and ITD is considering that. We're working on the I-84 widening, the Karcher Bridge prep, right, for the widening of the road out by Costco. Those are all big projects that have, it's taken staff a lot of work because it takes a lot of time. And I see Michael back here. Michael began these projects and Tom's continuing them. A lot of them are wastewater and transportation oriented. And Jeff, you're picking it up. And we have a great team of people that's working hard. The budget, we got through the budget. And you know what? It's a good thing. And today's the first year of that new budget. And I think overall it was very positive. We've got the downtown BID board is now almost at capacity on that board, and I'm very pleased that we've had a number of people step up and say they wanted to serve on the downtown board, and I think it's going to be one of the most engaged boards we've had in some time in the last several years, so I'm really pleased with that. The downtown strategic plan is in process. The airport strategic plan is kicking off. The transportation master plan is wrapping up. Impact fee. The Impact Fee Committee has met. We're going to be bringing forth recommendations on that. The research has been done. And again, that's not an easy lift. It's a heavy lift, not done but underway. The Tyler Software as a Service implementation, that is a heavy lift for our city and for all employees. And we're moving forward. We do have our new, Chris, if you'd like to stand. Chris is our new employee, project manager, and that he's leading our Tyler implementation, and we appreciate that you're with us, and thank you for working on that. It's awesome. We're holding the Mayor's Open House monthly, and we've revised the Mayor's Teen Council curriculum. So we've gotten a lot done since January. We have a whole lot more to go, and I've got all these goals, and I'm not going to go through them all because we'll talk about them later. One thing I asked our team today, and I'll get this to council, I asked our team, I said, so what is the one thing from your department for the next fiscal year that you want to accomplish? And what is the greatest challenge that you're facing? And so, but I didn't tell the staff what mine was. And I realized later, and I'll share mine, and then we'll get theirs out to everybody. We didn't get it all typed up. But you know what? The number one focus that I have for this coming year is customer service. I want to see that we as a city provide excellent customer service to our citizens, and then the other side is to each other internally. And so that's going to be our focus, and that's my charge to our team, and that is that we're going to serve our citizens well. And then, the greatest challenge that I think that we're facing is lack of police on the streets. That is, this weekend we've had different incidences that we've been dealing with, and I just realized that we are still critically understaffed. Our citizens are wanting improved service. The safety of our officers and citizens is imperative, and we're not where we need to be. And so today, I mean, we're dealing with calls on a regular basis regarding public safety and our citizens' concerns. And I've had a number of discussions with Chief, and we talked this weekend, and we definitely are still understaffed. Even with the 6, we're understaffed at a point that it's very concerning, because it's important, the safety of our officers, because they have wives and children, and they want them to come home at night. And so that's the greatest concern I have. And then lastly, this is the month of the Mayor's Walking Challenge, so we're going to be doing walking staff meetings. If any council members would like to come walk with me, I'm walking at schools, and I need to walk. And so if anybody wants to walk with me, please let me know, and Kristen will get with you, and she'll give you dates if anybody would like to walk. So that was a little bit of a long update, and I don't normally do it as long, but thank you for bearing with me, because I think, you know, I want to applaud our team for the work, because these are the guys doing the work. It takes, and this stuff, everything I just talked about, that's above and beyond the daily operations of the city. We still have a city to run, and that's all above it. So they're doing a good job. So, okay, agency and external communications. So the first one is Compass, and Tony Tisdale is here to share with us.
Hi, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm having a bit of an identity crisis because I just found out I was elderly. I don't think I was prepared for that, but here we go. Gonna work. Okay, we have a presentation, and I'm trying to keep this really brief. We are reaching out to all of our member agencies and giving the same exact presentation. I've shortened yours just a little bit, but we want everyone to have the same information so that you have an idea of what Compass is, what we can do for you, and how we can help you. I'm part of the resource development team assigned to bring in and distribute much-needed transportation funding to Ada and Canyon counties. Compass is the forum for regional collaboration in Southwest Idaho, and our mission is to conduct regional planning, facilitate coordination and cooperation, serve as a source of information and expertise on issues affecting Southwest Idaho, and assist member agencies in accessing funding to accomplish local and regional goals. And that last part is what our team does for you. We bring in that extra money. We are constantly looking for other sources to fund the needs that we have in transportation. We are an association of cities, counties, highway districts, and other agencies who plan for the future of Ada and Canyon counties. We are our member agencies. Currently, we have 19 general members, 5 special members, and 3 ex officio members. The Compass Board is made up of representatives, primarily elected officials from each of our member agencies, and the board provides policy direction for the future of the region. Our board also plays a strategic role in planning activities in our region, including oversight of a long-range transportation plan and the Regional Transportation Improvement Program. They also provide input to federal and state policy positions, as well as the Compass program budget. The Compass Board makes decisions based on recommendations of policy and technical recommendations from committees, as well as various work groups. And the resource development team makes up 3 of our 18 staff assigned to various departments to provide services and activities and events for our member agencies. Compass is a metropolitan planning organization known as an MPO, and MPOs are federally required for urbanized areas once they reach 50,000. And they're designated by the governor in agreement with local governments. Compass is unique in that it represents 2 urbanized areas, the Nampa urbanized area, which is actually made up of Nampa, Caldwell, and Middleton, as well as kind of rounded off by areas of the county, and the Boise urbanized area, which is made up of Boise, Garden City, Eagle, and Meridian, so as well as parts of Ada County. Because of the differences in the sizes of the urbanized area, funding comes in differently for each of these areas, and so they're handled in very different ways. Membership in Compass definitely has its privileges. First and foremost, you get a seat at the table. As those regional planning and policy decisions are discussed and made, the board's decision affects regional transportation system and impacts the quality of life for all Treasure Valley residents, as well as those who pass through our beautiful region. A few of the primary services Compass provides for its members are listed here, but just to point out a few, we have Geographic Information System, that's our mapping services. We have orthophotography, grant assistance, including grant writing, and bicycle pedestrian counters, and that's just to name a few. Some of the hot topics that our board is currently discussing are regional transportation priorities, both long-term and short-term, insufficient funding to meet the project needs of all of our member agencies, lack of dedicated funding for specifically public transportation, and ensuring that active transportation or the bicycle and pedestrian community have access to safe routes throughout the region. So how do we conduct planning while addressing these hot topics? We plan, implement, facilitate, and provide technical expertise. Our planning team at Compass is led by Lisa Conan, and her main focus is to oversee the creation and updates of the long-range plan, and that's called Communities in Motion 2040, soon to be called 2040 2.0, as it's in the final stages of being updated. We anticipate approval by the end of the year. It's also based on the goals and objectives that were determined for Communities in Motion 2040 4 years ago. It contains 8 planning elements that are incorporated into the long-range plan, as each of those relates to transportation. So besides the usual transportation and housing that we looked at in the past, we're also looking at farmland, open space, health, community infrastructure, and economic development. The plan not only identifies regional needs, but establishes goals, performance measures, and targets. Those provide the foundation of determining where progress is being made and what parts of the system need more attention. Long-range planning for our transportation system is carried out by looking through lenses of 4 transportation components, that is roadways, bicycle, pedestrian, public transportation, and freight. This map shows where we have long-term funded and unfunded needs. The blue lines you see on the map here are considered funded for the long term, and the orange line are considered unfunded at this point. So you can see we still have a very large unfunded need throughout the Treasure Valley. But planning isn't the only way we help our members move the needle on Communities in Motion. We also provide data and feedback to assist in your decision-making. Compass provides technical expertise to help measure projects. The technical services team is led by Marianne Waldinger, and she is our modeling expert to help model transportation projects and how they affect the region. Compass gathers heaps of data, which is assembled by our technical team and analyzed and provided in a way that is easy for the public to understand. Compass also provides analysis of proposed new developments by conducting reviews for local jurisdictions that demonstrate whether those developments are meeting the goals and objectives of Communities in Motion 2040. Population estimates are developed annually. Forecast demographics include population, household, and jobs. Our latest numbers show for Ada and Canyon County a total of about 690,000, 232,000 for Boise City alone. Our second city just reached over 100,000. That is the city of Meridian at 106,000. And Nampa is very close behind at 98,000. We expect our 2040 population to be over 1 million people. Compass has also served as a mapping resource for several decades, and all the staff on our technical resources team works very closely with our communications staff to be able to provide all the analysis and maps that we have for public consumption as well as for our member agencies. So another group of services Compass provide is facilitator, and that team is led by Amy Luft. Her team provides multiple ways to reach out to the public through outreach opportunities such as this one, through presentations, Leadership in Motion Awards, and that provides awards for community leaders as well as citizens and agencies and organizations that bring projects into compliance with the Communities in Motion goals and objectives. We also use media and social media to share information. Our community staff also hosts an educational event that is, we bring in national speakers on education or transportation themed events, And we provide both a session for the public as well as session for your technical staff. They also oversee the public involvement process to encourage participation in our plans as well as projects through open houses as well as upcoming project comment periods. Another role Compass plays, and it's a really important one because this is where my team comes in, is the implementation. We are always looking for ways to bring in additional money to fund the needs. There just simply is not enough money to cover the needs that we have in our plans. We've been in a maintenance mode in the Treasure Valley for quite some time, but the growth is starting to catch up, and we've started adding. I know you've noticed the projects that we're starting to add capacity, but we are still having a focus on maintenance because we're trying to keep the roads we have in good condition because it's much more expensive to fix a bad road. Our resource development team works very hard to secure funding and find new sources to fund member projects. Our goal is to bring as much funding through with many different sources as possible, and the first step is to find out what the member needs are. So to help meet those needs, Compass staff has created a funding application guide to help provide direction to staff on how to apply for various funding sources managed by Compass. Applications are then submitted to us by each jurisdiction, and all project needs identified in the application received are included in the annual resource development plan. The Compass board approves this plan, and it's basically my team's marching orders to try to find money for those projects. All jurisdictions with projects not programmed for funding are frequently notified of potential alternative funding opportunities as they become available throughout the year. The $90 million grant received by ITD recently to widen I-84 in Nampa was the result of a team effort and collaboration between ITD and Compass. And one of my staff members was the primary writer of that grant. She likes to say, we may not bring you $90 million, but we will do our best to bring some money into the area. Our locally managed federal program and 2 local programs, the CIM implementation grants, that stands for Communities in Motion, and the Project Development Program fund the region's top-ranked projects. So Communities in Motion implementation grants are small grants that fill the need, that are there to help reach the goals and objectives of Communities in Motion. An example of that is the Garden City wayfinding signs. They were trying to find a way to help people get around by foot and bicycle between their wine tasting areas and their green belts. So this is the project that they came up with. We also have the project development program. That's where you have an idea and you need to develop it enough to apply for grant funding. And it takes a project idea, develops it into about 20 to 30% design. An example of that is the Eagle Road Corridor project. Within this plan, there are many areas along Eagle Road that the sidewalk just stops, and we're trying to make it a continuous corridor throughout there. And last but not least, the funding programs that Compass manages is an array of federal aid programs that fund the top-ranked programs. These are in a 5-year program called the Transportation Improvement Program, and the tip needs to be reflective of what's in Communities in Motion. So you can see how all these pieces are starting to fall together. We've covered the programs that Compass manages, but we don't want you to forget all the other funding sources out there that we can help you access. We urge you to reach out to us because we can help. Fund a grant, write a grant, find partners for a grant, or even provide a second set of eyes when you're writing a grant in-house. If it's funding related, we'll do anything we can do to help you get the money. We covered that Compass is an association of local governments that facilitates regional cooperation and serves as a regional technical resource. We also work hard to provide support for projects that meet local and regional needs and conduct long-range planning, resulting in Communities in Motion 2040, our plan for the Treasure Valley. So these are the projects in the resource development plan that the city of Nampa applied for. So the projects on top are the ones that were actually applications, and then the focus areas below are a broader area of things that your staff is looking at. What that does is give us a broader array of projects that we can look for funding for you. Many times when you're looking for grant funding, you find everything except what you're looking for. So this gives us a broader array of what we can help you find. And then these are the projects that the City of Nampa currently has that are federally funded. Your staff has done an amazing job in applications, and they've been very successful in getting projects. So I want to open for discussion. Any questions that you have of Compass, any way we can help you, or maybe projects that you're looking forward to. And I've written down a few that you talked about just a minute ago. So I've got some of those written down already. But do you have any questions or?
Madam Mayor, if I may, thank you, Mrs. Tisdale, for summarizing that so quickly, especially when it's right here, but you summarized it well, so thank you so very much. I'm also in that elders classification by far, so this, the question I'm asking may be after I'm long gone. But I'm getting different perspectives on the existing rail system. Is the existing rail system in the future, is it usable? Can it accommodate commuter traffic between Caldwell and Micron, or would there have to be an all-new rail system for that to happen?
We're still working on what that answer might be.
So we don't have an answer on that then,
We
okay.
don't have an answer yet. Currently, even for a pathway along the rail, Union Pacific says no.
That's what I understand, and I've
But-
heard others too, so, okay.
We don't really want to hear the word no, so we're still looking into it. We are still looking at plans for possible sidewalks and pathways along the rail, or possibly public transportation along the rail, or some other opportunity in the future for both.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I appreciate the work that Compass does. Tony, you did a good job of summarizing that very quickly. Thank you for providing the information in advance so we could review it. And we just appreciate the work that you do. And we do have a good team that has really gone after the grants. And so it's great to partner with Compass and the work that you guys do.
I can tell you, as we go out, y'all have more on that funded sheet than anyone else does.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that
Well,
work.
thanks.
Yeah.
Y'all have done really well.
That's on record, right?
Yeah.
I have some backups for you. More information, if you don't mind.
Thank you. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
And just for the community out there, Mayor Kling and I are on the Compass Board. And it's interesting when we go to those meetings. And Director Tom Point usually goes with us, and it was before, it was, what's his name back there? Michael Foos.
Tony, thank you. And as you finish passing those out, Margie, I'll let you go ahead and come forward because Margie has a brief food resources presentation. Tony, thank you. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, I'm Margie Potter, Development PR for the Salvation Army in Nampa, 403 12th Avenue South. I am nowhere near as prepared for a presentation as Tony was with Compass because I think I'm here by default because I answered the phone for Robin when she called last week. And she had some questions. I think you, as council, had questions about food resources in Nampa, and I came to answer some of those questions for you. So I think some of the things that you were asking, well, first of all, we have a food pantry at the Salvation Army, as you know. That, and in July, I'll tell you a couple of numbers here. In July, we had 539 food boxes gave out. Those were unduplicated services. And in September, we had 700, or take that back, sorry, October, we're in right now, and so we're up to a good start now already. It's just crazy. Just as of today, they gave out 59 food boxes. So I don't know what happened there. In August, we had 764 food boxes given out, and in September, there was 530, and those are all unduplicated families. So those aren't just food boxes. So some families are larger, and they'll get 2 food boxes. So that's just some of the numbers there. We also have the community shelter that they serve breakfast, lunch, and a sack meal every day, Monday through Friday. And so they serve to about 100 people for breakfast, about 100 people at lunch, and they give about 100 sack lunches that people can take with them because we're only open until 3 every day. And Robin gave me some information about the other pantries in the area that you guys, that were on a list. We have a list that's not quite the same as I think was included in your packet. So some of the times were wrong on those, but we keep are, up to date because we give people that information. So they can come in to the food pantry, they can get, they fill out a form if they've never been there before, and we ask for proof of address. We don't ask for income verification, but we do ask how much they make. And so they kind of tell us what they make, and we mark that, and it goes by the government. There's a government low-income poverty chart that we go by. And we ask for their ID and the people in their household and the date of birth of the people in their household. And so the Salvation Army is really big on statistics. They, keep all of this information. So if you really wanted more detailed information, I could get that for you. I just need a little bit more time to do that because we run on a skeleton staff there, and it would just take us a little bit to get that because not anybody can access that information because there's personal things in there. But I can tell you that a lot of our people that come in are veterans and seniors. A lot come in there. About 25% of the people get rides that don't have vehicles, so they receive rides. I can tell you what areas that people come from, so I could research that more to see, because I know we're going to have some conversation later about the that north area, that food access, that you're going to be talking about that piece of property there, or the church that's running the food pantry there, or the mobile food pantry. Any questions that you guys have? I'm not exactly sure what information, I know you have.
Yeah, I'll want more, but I'll
Councilman
make it
Brenner, you
simpler.
have some
I'm
questions.
always asking, aren't I? Sorry.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, and if you don't know, this is fine. I'm especially interested in Snake River Elementary. Above there, it says school pantries serving families attending their school, only those with exterior entrance. Do you have any idea whether Snake River has an exterior entrance?
They do. So Snake River and I believe East Canyon School is now, not East Canyon, Central Canyon School is going to be starting that as well. And they have to have that entrance to be able to serve people that aren't, children that are not
Right,
in there.
that's-
So
and that's-
it can be open to the public, but it would only be a couple of days a week, and they only have shelf-stable food. They don't really have any fresh food or, it's not.
There's no perishables in it.
Yeah, well, they may have some, but they don't, it's not a regular food pantry. So it's really it's meant to be accessible to the students and their families.
And I'm sorry, follow up, then I'll be quiet. Do they get, we were told they do not get food from Idaho Food Bank. Do you know if that's true or false?
I do not know if that's true or false. We have a partnership with the Idaho Food Bank, and I know that the Nampa Care House works with them as well. And then we have also what's called part of the Food Rescue Program. So we receive part of the Food Rescue Program from all the grocery stores, like Winco, Walmart, Albertsons, Target, and we pick up food that's about to go out of date, or so we get a lot of support that way. And then from the food drives, the schools do food drives for the food pantries in the area, and then we usually it's usually for if they do it, they pick a specific food pantry that they want to do it for. There's also scouting for food, and the postal food drives they do for all the food pantries, and we're just like a point where anybody that wants to send people over to help, we give them a portion of that. We split that food up between the food pantries.
And I will say, I was in a meeting with the school district and asked that question today.
Okay.
And they have a shelf of food, but they certainly don't have the means to really serve, and the capacity and the ability to serve. Their intent, while they say that they're available to the community, the intent is
Or internal.
Yeah.
Okay. And I may email you later if there's some.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks. I won't
Yes,
bug
if
you
you,
now.
any of you have, if I had more time to prepare, I might come up with a lovely PowerPoint presentation and have a little bit more information. But I wasn't involved in, I'm just hearing what you guys are asking
You've done
for.
great.
So I'm was just trying to touch on those points.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Mayor Kling, Margie, thank you for bringing forward the opportunity for this conversation to take place. At our Napa Development Corporation meeting last week, we did talk about this, and I think where Councilman Brunner is going is there, the question was, is there a coordinated effort to provide for the needs of those out that are in the community that need this type of assistance? And we were a little dismayed in hearing that there hadn't been more communication between food banks, food pantries, the schools, to provide more of a coordinated effort. So that's, I think, what we're trying to, dialogue on now at this point and moving forward, because there appears to be no lack of food available. There appears to be a lack of locations for it to be stored, to be able to be divided among those that need it. So thank you for your help. I went online today and just printed off a few things there. As far as food pantries, I was surprised with the number of places in and around Nampa. There are several. And if they were to coordinate together, I think it'd be a lot more effective. And so if the schools are willing to lessen the load a little bit just for their own population of people that, because I know Snake River Elementary, now Endeavor has a food pantry, and then Central School. As far as the article that I read, they're looking to have at least 5 online by this fall. So that's a great opportunity to lessen the load and maybe spread a little bit of the ability to share. So thank you for the dialogue tonight.
And Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, I want to make clear on one thing is that they don't, like saying they don't have the capacity at the schools to really deal with the public in a large quantity. It will lessen it a little bit, but it's on a smaller scale. So I believe they may get things like backpacks, but that's meant for they're food backpacks that have like Cliff Bars and things like that, but they're meant for one child for a weekend to last them. So they're not going to get a lot of food there. But I do recall Robin saying something about the coordination between the food pantries, and they can come once every 30 days to our food pantry, and that's how it is with the most food pantries. They can come once every 30 days. So we don't collaborate that way because a food box is not meant to last 30 days. A food box is going to only last several days, maybe a week if they planned it. I mean, if they're starving. I mean, if they're really planning it out. But so a lot of people that need to go get a food box, first of all, it's I don't know if you've ever been in that position, but it's not that, it's not like they're jumping on going out to abuse the system and get a bunch of food boxes because, first of all, it's mostly food that's about to go out of date. And second of all, it's kind of embarrassing to go get a food box, if I'm being perfectly honest with everybody. So it's, we try to make people feel like we're giving them a hand up and not a handout, first of all. And second of all, they will plan out a lot of times the food pantries that they're going to go to make it through the month. So, so they're not, if we collaborated that way and we limited people like, oh, you already went here, you can't get a food box over here. I don't think that the system was set up to be that way. But sure, the schools, back to what you were saying about that, Councilman Haverfield, that will lessen the load a little bit.
Well, Mayor Kling, I mean, the main thing is if there was a coordinated effort, it'd be better for everyone.
Correct.
Because then you wouldn't be out there standing on your own hoping to be able to
Correct.
satisfy the needs of a geographical area. You'd be knowing that it was a matrix of different locations that would have the ability to either partner with or even share with back and forth as you have surplus.
Yes.
They might be able to take on some of that surplus. Question I had that wasn't answered last week was if the Idaho Food Bank brings product in a refrigerated car, why couldn't they leave that trailer? And since it's already refrigerated, why couldn't there be a means of working with even the food bank to be able to provide a better means of being able to store the perishable products for a longer period of time? If it was just 2 weeks, where they could just change out those cars and come in. Maybe it's a cost issue, I'm not sure, but it seems like there could be other ways to solve this if we put our collective minds together.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know what that mobile food pantry, I can't speak to that. I'm not, Star is Rayo is our social services director, and she runs the food pantry for the Salvation Army, and she moonlights at another job that she was scheduled at tonight, so she couldn't come. So she could probably answer some of these questions, though she is fairly new, so she has attended the Northside Access Food Committee, I think on September 5th, I believe. She attended that meeting, so and then she's gone to the Idaho Food Banks, and she has also asked to visit other pantries so she could see how they're run. So I can't speak to everybody else, but we're taking an active, stance in, I don't know if it's that active stance, taking an active role and going and looking and seeing how other food pantries are run and how we could better communicate with each other and help each other out, because we're all trying to do the same thing. There's there is access to more food. It's how to get there, I think is probably part of the problem right now.
Margie, thank you. Due to time, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so
I'll
much.
talk all night.
Thank you. Okay, so we do have a public hearing to start at 7, but we have 2 staff reports we need to get through prior to public hearings. And so I would like we're going to rearrange a little bit. Claire Conley will put you on first for a brief staff report, and then Vicki will put you on next so that you can get gone. So this is our library staff report, and thank you.
Wow. Our wonderful technology manager, Mike Sloan, prepares. Good evening, Mayor Kling and City Council members. I'm very pleased to be here with you this evening to present you with a couple of items from the library, and I will be brief, I promise. The first is our strategic plan that our library board just passed a month or two ago. It's 2018 to 2022. First, we'll start with our mission statement. We are a corner, are you okay, Mike? Oh, good. We are a cornerstone of the community, providing diverse gathering spaces, opportunities to learn, access to vital resources, and programs for the enrichment of all. And there are 4 of our board members up top there serving hot dogs to the public. That's the kind of thing they do. Our vision statement is the Namath Public Library inspires and engages our community. Our values, which are very important, which we really didn't have in place before, and I won't go in detail over them, but they are kindness and compassion is number 1 to me, respect and integrity, freedom of information, inclusion, accountability, and innovation. That's what we stand for. That's what we expect our staff to stand for, and that's what we're here for the public for. We have 4 main objectives along with goals that we're going to be working on for the next few years. First, we have user experience. User experience is to enhance and sustain a welcoming, exceptional experience for all visitors and staff. There at the bottom, you can see a family enjoying our solar eclipse program on the parking garage rooftop. It was wonderful. Next is community engagement. Create ways to engage Nampa residents outside of the library to learn what more the library can do to facilitate community conversations and awareness of library resources. So this is us reaching out into the community and seeing what we can do for them and what we can bring to them. The next is resources. Identify and cultivate vibrant digital and physical collections to satisfy our growing community's diverse interests and needs. Once again, very important. And this is probably my favorite picture. I don't know if anybody can see it, but at the bottom picture on the left there, there's a little baby girl, and she's at one of our kids' computers, and she actually has a pacifier in her mouth. So we start them young. And last but not least, technology. Seek out and provide current and future technology to inspire and educate the community and build digital literacy skills. This is all very important for our community. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what we can do. We will be working on this diligently. We have already started, and this is going to be ongoing, and we're going to really progress through this, and I feel very strongly about this. This is on our website. If you go to the bottom of the front page of our website, on the left, you can click on the strategic plan and just peruse it all as much as you want. So,
And October 31st,
that's my next announcement. My next announcement is, I'd like to announce our new open hours beginning October 31st. The Library Board approved this last week. So we will be adding 5 hours to our open hours. This has been asked for time and time again by our patrons, by other people in the community, through our survey that we put out in February. This is much needed and long waited for, and there are going to be a lot of happy people in Nampa as soon as this takes place, just upon hearing this. Believe me, I hear from them all the time. So our new opening hours, currently we close at 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday. We'll be closing at 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. This is going to allow greater access for our community. It's going to allow many, many things to take place. Kids coming in after school, families, programs, meetings, all kinds of things. And our next open hour is Friday morning at 9 o'clock. So this will allow for people to come in and start their meetings an hour earlier, or for us to start our programs, or different groups to come in, and people to participate in the library when they haven't been able to before. I am thrilled with this. I am so happy about this. I'm very proud of this. I want to thank Mayor Kling for her support and her guidance, and I want to thank the council members for passing our budget to include a part-time position that is allowing this to happen. And I want to thank Mayor Kling once again when I came to her and I said, we want a full-time position. That's the only way we can do it. And she said, I believe she said to all the directors, well, can you figure out another way to do that? Figure something else out. We went back and we made some adjustments and had good conversations, and we were able to come up with a part-time position, and we're going to be a little stretched, but we are going to do it. So.
I tell you what, Claire, you are doing an amazing job, and I tell you, our whole community should say thank you. Great job. I'm so proud of our library and the work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank
She
you.
is doing good.
Yep. It's awesome. We're going to move real quickly to Vicki Chandler, and you have an award recognition. And that's awesome. Congratulations.
Mayor and council, thank you very much. It's not very often that finance hits the headlines. In fact, the phrase that we use if we have any question about ethics is, what would this look like if it hits the headlines? But once in a while, we like it, but not very often. This is one time that we like it. In your packet, I included this particular award that we always put into the CAFR, which is the Consolidated Financial Report, Annual Financial Report. And I'll repeat these words that are a part of the audit report. It says, the Government Finance Officers Association awards a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. It does not mean that we don't make mistakes. It just means that we're transparent about them. We report them. In order to be awarded a certificate of achievement, a government unit, that would be us, must publish an easily readable, if you believe that, then I have and efficiently organized, comprehensive annual financial report whose contents conform to program standards. The CAFR must satisfy both generally accepted accounting principles and applicable legal requirements. And the reason I ask that we acknowledge that tonight is because my name comes out on the report, and that is completely a misnomer. That should not happen, because I don't have nearly as much to do with this report as the Assistant Finance Director, who is Michelle Camper. And I twisted her arm to be here tonight because she is such an introvert. She buries her head in this report, and she works through so many details of it. The spreadsheet that she uses goes infinitely long into Excel Never Never Land, and then she rises up periodically and asks for more information. Lots of people are involved in giving her information on it, all the departments. The statistical report that's included in this can cause you to go off of your sleeping pills and give you all sorts of comfort to create lots of information for you. If you're running for office, you should definitely bury your head in this report. Gives you all sorts of information about the city of Nampa. As I said, it's transparent and easily readable format. But it used to be that they would give us a plaque for it every year, and somewhere there are boxes of plaques. And now they just send one little round dot that we add to this plaque that I'm going to present to Michelle tonight. So Michelle needs to come forward, as she hates to do. But I'm her ride home tonight, which is why I get to leave early. So she has to come forward tonight as well, so that we can present her with this piece of granite that will go back up on the wall after she's presented with the 2017. Now, I want to identify that Michelle is responsible not only for this award, but for probably half of the 37 years that it's been given to Nampa. So in order to show her how much we appreciate her work on it, I'm giving her the award that has to the finance department, because the other one has my name on it, and also this little token of our appreciation. You're welcome.
Great job, Michelle, and thank you. Okay, so it is time for our public hearings, and we had 2 on the agenda. As we stated earlier, we have removed 1 off the agenda, and I just want to clarify. Robert, would you like to speak to are you speaking to item 8.2?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me. When I heard that, I was conferring quickly with Norm, and we confirmed that, in fact, that should be on the agenda, unless somebody knows something that we don't. The Greenbrier item that was to be removed was actually for development agreement modification, or shouldn't have been on there, I should say, and Greenbrier number 3. So this vacation of easements by Pat McMonigal, we understood was supposed to be on tonight and was advertised.
So I need the clarity. Was this item advertised? Debbie, can we find that out? Because my understanding is you're saying it was advertised? That it was advertised, and it's a different item. Okay. I apologize. There has been considerable confusion over this item just because of the name. So, okay. So Mark, how do we proceed with that one? Because if it was noticed, we did earlier procedurally take it off the agenda. Can we reverse that and put it back on the agenda?
You can, Mayor. Obviously, it was removed in error. It was appropriately noticed, and it was appropriately agendized. So just simply a motion to add it back onto the agenda would be appropriate.
Okay.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, is that a roll call? Okay. So let's go with roll call. The second was?
It was me.
A sheepish Rick.
Councilman Hogan.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Skog,
Yes.
Hogaboom,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Okay, so item 8.2 will be on the agenda, but we will begin with public hearing item number 8-1. This is an action item. It's annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 for Carriage Hollow subdivision at 0 West Iowa Avenue for toll ID 1 LLC for JARA-8, LLC. So do we have an applicant here this evening? Hello. Thank you for coming forward, stating your name, address, who you're with. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm Becky McKay. I'm with Engineering Solutions. My business address is 1029 North Rosario in Meridian, and I'm here representing Toll Brothers this evening on the application that's before you. A little map out. So this particular piece of property is just a little over 9 acres. It adjoins Carriage Hill North on the western boundary. It's surrounded by the Robinson Canal, or the Robinson Lateral wraps all the way around it. There was a stub street that was provided, Pram Way, I think it is, that stubs into this property. What's before you this evening is we're asking for annexation and zoning of the 9.06 acres to an RS 8.5 and preliminary plat approval for 24 single-family lots. On your comprehensive plan, this is designated as low-density residential. The surrounding uses in this general vicinity are primarily single-family and some agricultural uses to the west. To the north of this is the city gravel pit that it's my understanding is currently under reclamation, and at some point in time when it is finally reclaimed, the long-range plan is that it would be a public park. Let me show you a copy. So this is a colored rendering of the site. We're proposing connection, as I indicated, to that Stub Street Pram, and then we're arcing the cul-de-sac into the development. We'll have a 56-foot right-of-way with a 34-foot section with detached sidewalks and a 6-foot wide planting strip in between the curb and face of walk. The cul-de-sac length for this particular project, based on your policy, is it's measured from the center of the intersection to the center of the proposed cul-de-sac. That does exceed the maximum allowable length. However, we have asked in our application for a waiver of that, since this property is ringed by the Robinson Lateral and all utilities go into the Carriage Hill North. So it's a natural extension of Carriage Hill North into this particular piece of property. In your staff report, they've evaluated the request for that waiver on the cul-de-sac length and have indicated they are supporting it. We have about a half-acre lot, as you can see, that's kind of right there on the eastern edge. I've got 2 micropaths that lead into that common space, one from the north and one from the south. And that'll be landscaped, and our amenity within that common lot is going to be a splash pad. I guess they went and solicited from the Carriage Hill North residents what other amenities they would like. They have their pool house and playground and pool facility and other pathways, and they said, we'd really like a splash pad. So that's what will be installed in that open space. The lots that you're looking at there range in size from 9,000 square feet all the way up to 27,000 square feet, and we have an average lot size of a little over 13,200 square feet. The proposed density is 2.65 dwelling units per acre, so that's definitely in that low range, consistent and compatible with what we have at Carriage Hill North. As I indicated, sewer and water facilities are there on the Stub Street. They'll be extended into the project. The storm drainage will be retained within our common space. We don't have high groundwater, so everything will be subsurface, like seepage beds. Can I answer any questions?
Seeing none, thank you. You will have the opportunity to come back and answer any questions at the conclusion of the public hearing before we close it. Thank you very much, Becky.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item before you begs of you only one decision tonight, and that is, of course, the annexation and zoning assignment request made by the applicants as represented to you by the representative that was here before me. Staff, having reviewed this matter, has concluded that the property is certainly eligible for consideration for annexation. Utility and emergency services are available to the site, and further, that the zoning requested by the applicants is well within care and keeping of both our comprehensive master plan map, as well as contiguous in sense to zoning of like pattern on our zoning map and would facilitate development of the ground in a way that's in keeping with the surrounding property and property plans for development, as we understand it, to the west. Further, the Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended this item to you favorably, and they have also, within their authority, approved the plat, of course, subject to your approving the annexation of the project site. Any questions?
Mayor Kling. Robert, was there any conversation at the planning and zoning level about a development agreement?
Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, I don't recall. I'd have to look back at the minutes and see. But in the sense that we already have the controls that we need in our subdivision code and zoning code, I don't think there was brokered any offering of that kind of conversation off the top of my head. And it's probably not supposed in your report.
No. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Robert. So this is a public hearing, and we do not have anyone signed up to testify in support or in opposition of this particular item. Is there anyone here that intended to testify or that would like to testify this evening? Okay, seeing none. Are there any added comments from our applicant? Nope. Okay, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council discussion?
Madam Mayor, fellow council members, I would move that we approve the annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 for Carriage Hollow subdivision as presented. There's no conditions recommended by staff.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Levi? No. Haverfield?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we will move to item 8.2 on the agenda. And this is an action item, the vacation of a 5-foot wide public utility, drainage, and irrigation easements on either side of the interior lot lines between lots 43B and 44A, lots 44B and 45A, and lots 45B and 46A, a Block 1 in Greenbrier Estate subdivision, excluding the front 10 feet and rear 12 feet easements. The lots are addressed as 3708, 3712, 3716, 3720, 3724, 3728 Teakwood Drive, Nampa, within the RP zoning district. The applicants state that they're requesting the vacation of easements in order to construct 2-unit townhouses straddling each pair of the lots. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, so not seeing the applicant. Staff report?
Mayor and Council, the item before you, as already indicated, requires your consideration of the requested vacation of a series of side property easements in Greenbrier Estates Number 1. The side property easements were initially mapped for the purpose of facilitating an area for grading, drainage, and utility lines. They are, in the case of what the applicants are seeking, deemed to be irrelevant or not needed, simply because they are wanting to now straddle the area where those easements are with buildings, to be specific, 2-unit attached townhomes, duplex style in other words. Staff has provided you with the commentary that we had pertaining to this item in your reports, and of course any agency or department correspondence or citizenry correspondence, which I have not received any to date that I'm aware of. Staff has provided you with a recommendation that favors the applicant's request and gives you in your report an outline of some of the history and perspective on this matter. If you want further information, of course, look on page 2, or I'm here to answer your questions.
Mayor Kling. Robert, it doesn't appear that they're removing the lot lines. It's just the easements. Is that correct?
Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, that is correct.
So the units that are built will be townhouse units.
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
So this is a public hearing. Because of the confusion surrounding this particular item tonight, I would like to ask the council what the will of the council is related to this public hearing. If we should actually keep the hearing open and address this at a future date, time and date uncertain, or if we want to go ahead and move on this. I do not have anyone signed up to testify in support of or to oppose this? And I guess I would pause right now and ask, is there anyone here this evening that had intended to testify on this particular item? Okay, seeing none, and with the applicant not here, I'm not clear as to the why and where we are, because this was a confusing item for us this evening. So I would like to ask the council what the will of the council is on that.
Mayor Kling, it is my procedure not to go any further until the applicant is here to describe and talk about and clear things up. I will not be voting on this.
Okay.
Mayor
So,
Kling,
yes.
I have no issue at all with what they're requesting, so I would support a motion to allow the vacation of the easements as proposed.
And is that a motion?
Okay, that's my motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Allow me,
Yep.
Mayor, you want to go first?
No.
Okay. So Madam Mayor, just want to clarify, the question was asked, so from staff, this was totally publicly announced in the proper format? I get that, that would be my only hesitancy on this.
Mayor and Councilman Brunner, yes, and let me put on the screen here, if you like, the notice of the advertisement we have.
Yeah, I trust you totally, Robert. Okay. Okay, so that's all I have for discussion.
And the point, I'm sorry, Mayor Kling. The point I would make is there's still single home ownership per lot. The townhouses, basically, that's what that describes. So they aren't duplexes with single ownership of two. They're home ownership on each lot with a fire separation wall that separates each of the units that straddle the property lines.
So I am going to pause during this discussion time and just, we did not close the public hearing. And so I want to turn to legal and ask, do we have a motion on the floor and a second? And we could move into a vote, but we have not closed public hearing. So procedurally,
That's true.
Yeah,
what do we need to do with that?
first motion would be to close public hearing, and then you could consider the motion on the ultimate question.
Okay. So we are still in a discussion phase, and I know that Councilman Levi appeared to want to comment something. So Councilman Levi, do you have a comment during our discussion time?
Thank you, you're very perceptive. Mayor and council, I was going to just echo what Councilman Rodriguez had said because of the confusion. I do appreciate what Councilman Haverfield did comment on, but I would support what Councilman Haverfield was bringing forth.
Okay, this is the procedural challenge.
You said Councilman Haverfield, I think.
You meant,
It's subliminal.
I mentioned both of you, my
They do kind of look alike.
She knows who to back here. So.
Yeah, that's right.
okay, so you know what, I'm conflicted with a procedural issue. And that issue is whether or not to continue the public hearing. Because in choosing to move forward with the motion as it's stated, we would be taking action tonight. We would not be continuing the public hearing. Based on what Councilman Rodriguez said, that would be to continue the public hearing. And so I think we need to come back and step back from this motion if we can and go back to the first motion. We need to decide if we're going to close public hearing or not. Because that, do you see where I'm going, council? So
Yeah, and I'll make the motion, we close public hearing.
Second?
So is there still the first motion on the floor?
We have to re-motion,
Redo
don't we?
it.
you'll have to redo your motion.
Okay.
And we'll come back to that. So we have a motion and a second to close public hearing. Is there any discussion on that? Okay. Do we, you know what, we're going to do a roll call on this one.
That's fine.
Yeah, so roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Levi?
No.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
And Brunner?
Yes.
Okay, so
Clarification, Mayor.
yes,
This is on to close the public hearing.
this was to close the public
Okay,
hearing.
all right, thank you.
Yes. So the public hearing, that was a 4-2 vote, is that correct?
5-1, I think.
Or 5-1?
5-1.
Okay, so 5-1. So thank you for keeping my numbers straight.
I can go to
gonna
10.
get-
no problem.
Okay, so we have closed the public hearing, and now we could stand for a motion. And if you'd like to repeat your motion.
Do I need to okay. I will make a motion to authorize the vacation of the easements as written in the report presented to us tonight.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I still make a point, Mayor Kling, that we should not continue to vote on issues that are up for discussion from the residences, also when the primary individual is not here. So I'm protesting the motion.
Thank you.
That's the first.
So that said, and I respect your comments, thank you, Councilman Rodriguez, but so with that, if there's no further discussion, it would be roll call.
Rodriguez,
No.
Hogaboom,
Yes.
Levi,
No.
Skog,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
So the yeses, thank
4
you.
to 2. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so this public hearing is complete. Now, I want to go back to, and I need to ask legal because we have a little bit of a challenge tonight. And I need the clarity to make sure that we are handling this other item. Was this item noticed? We have an item that is not on our agenda. So technically, you're not allowed to add something to your agenda, however it was noticed. So I'm in a little bit of a procedural dilemma on this item that was, and Debbie, you're sure this was noticed? This item was noticed?
That's what I asked. Yeah.
Was the vacation of the 5-foot wide public utility drainage and irrigation easement on either side of the inner lot? This one was noticed?
Yes, Mayor, according to Norm, it was noticed, and there's a copy of the notification information on the screen.
Okay. So my understanding from legal in our discussion earlier is even though it wasn't on the agenda, it was noticed, and that we will go ahead and open a public hearing on this item that is not currently on our agenda, but that was noticed.
I thought we just did.
Is this correct? No, this is a different one. Which one is?
That's the one we just did.
Okay, this is a different one that I'm hearing from Debbie, and this is the vacation of a 5-foot. No, this is the same one, Debbie. This is the same one we just did, right here.
We did.
This is it.
Madam Mayor, 2 public hearings, and we've handled 2, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
My understanding is, Debbie, this is the same one we just did.
I think this is a combination of two that.
Okay, so I think that we are done, because this, I think there was an error that has taken place, but I think we're fine, because we have dealt with the 2 items on the agenda, and that were noticed. Okay, so our public hearings are done, and now we are going to move to our, actually, we have no unfinished business, that's just amazing. And legal,
Mayor Kling,
yes.
did we get through the Public Works staff report, or are we going to
Oh,
keep
I
Tom
guess
around to
we
the
should
end?
go back to Public Works. Tom, I almost forgot you. I sincerely apologize.
You want to go last, right?
Yes. Thank you, Councilman Haverfield.
That's okay.
Appreciate that.
Evening, Mayor, Council. I've got 3 items on the staff report today, all related to water. The first one, fall's on its way, it's coming. So irrigation water goes off about this time. So October 5th will be the last day for irrigation water. And we put out a press release of those affected on that back on September 19th. Another item, Idaho Department of Environmental Quality has recently asked or put out a couple of rulemakings for public comment that are due also this Friday. Both of them, there are 2 of them, and the first one is proposing to combine the secondary and primary contact requirements for the waters. NAMPA's not in favor of this, and we wrote a letter in your packet that shows that we are not in favor of this. We believe this would be heading towards a more stringent requirement. So, we also have know that our AIC partners, American Association of Cities, is also not in favor of this, so we'll be working with them for this one on moving forward. The second is has to do with water temperature, and we are in favor of this. because it is less stringent, headed in the right direction. Basically, it allows to increase a water body by 0.3 degrees Celsius from the existing background. So that we believe it's we're heading in the right direction, although it's not enough of a change to change any of the construction requirements at our plant and our facility plant today. And so, in the last one, Mayor mentioned in her opening remarks, we got a design review committee for our wastewater treatment plant. Had the first meeting at September 18th and went very well. We're basically going over the charter on what we're going to try to accomplish in these meetings. A couple of items would be project delivery type, cost-benefit decisions, and some value engineering. Those types of things will be discussed with this committee. The meeting notes are attached. We've got some good feedback from the committee about reuse, biosolid reuse, natural gas reuse. So we'll be looking into those. And our next meeting is at the wastewater treatment plant, October 18th from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Answer any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, the next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We are past that, and it is done. So it was passed. Yeah.
There you go.
That was that. He did get lucky.
Everybody can have a clear conscience now.
Thank you, Amy. Yes. Okay, so back to number 4, unfinished business. There is none. Number 5, that is pending ordinances that are postponed. Those are not action items. Those are for reference. And now moving to item number 6 on the agenda. This is our new business section. And item number 6.1 is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign the firefighters IAFF Local 804 contract. This has been reviewed and approved by the city attorney. And Chief Roberts is here this evening. Would you like to speak to this? I don't know if we need to.
So
but
moved. I'll make the motion to authorize you to move forward with that.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, in fact, I warned Chief Roberts I had some questions, so I'm going to delay this just a little bit,
Yeah, okay.
gentlemen. And I apologized, it put him on the spot, because some of these are some historical type questions, but number 1 is present. What is the main difference in this new contract than in the previous contract?
There's 2 items that are in this contract, and thank you, Mayor and City Council, that we worked to clean up. And one is to reduce or absorb step-up pay, which over the years it allowed members to step up from a firefighter to a driver operator, and we had to give them the differential of that pay. And so what we did was absorbed that pay into their pay line, which increased their percentage of pay, but it also reduced the amount of pay codes that goes into finance and HR, which has given us some difficulty over the years in the amount of pay that a member is receiving. So we've had some payroll issues. This will save a lot of administrative time from my administrative staff and to HR to finance, so I think everybody was welcome to see that change happen. So again, as with the changeover with the software programs, this will help streamline payroll for our firefighters across. So it's like from firefighter to driver operator to captain. I mean, just a number of different issues that cleans up.
Okay. And I'm just going to go through. There's about, I will admit, fellow councilman, there's about 9 items here I just would like a little clarification on. Number 1 is how the working conditions.
All the same.
Okay, I understand that, but I just need some there again, this is historical. 1 hour per weekday shift for study in week-related subject, in work-related subjects.
Yes.
I need just a clarification what that means and how is that held accountable as far as 1 hour per week for study?
What it is it holds the supervisor. It kind of gives them a check that they're allowed to study for promotions, for what we our training. There's a lot of our streamlined training is now electronic, and so that gives them the time to set aside to do that. to study for that, promotions, but it just holds the supervisor accountable that they're allowed to have that time in the contract. Apparently, in the past, this is a historical item. We brought it up this year as to me, as training is training, as if you need to have the training, you can have it. But again, they wanted to leave it in the contract at just this time is to give them the security of that they can have that time to study individually.
So that's 40-hour and 56-hour contracts then?
Mainly the 56, the 40s have yes, it is, the contract is for both.
Okay. Living boundaries. Currently, there's no living boundaries, so you could live out of state even?
I would say yes, but at this point, there's nobody that is
What,
pushing.
I mean, I'm putting you on the spot, I know here, Chief. What's the furthest, and as far as on an on-call emergency, what's the furthest one of your firefighters would need to travel?
I would probably say McCall.
Comp time, just need some clarification. This is the 56-hour. May accrue a competence up to 360 hours, which I count that up to be 45 days. That's per year?
You can, yes, through account. What they can do, though, is, no, that's continual. So they can't have over 300 hours in their
So
pay.
they could carry over up to 360 hours?
That's-
If they didn't have any comp time, say in 18 fiscal year, they could have 300
That's
carry over?
compensable time under FLSA. Yes.
Okay. All right. And then on restricted duty, if you have an off-duty injury, then it says you're allowed 1 hour workout or physical therapy per day during work hours?
The reason for that is that when we have an injured on-duty or off-duty illness or injury, then we're trying to prepare them to get back onto the 56-hour work shift quickly. So we give them, what we try to do is work that into physical therapy. So if they have a physical therapy time, that allows them to do the physical therapy. If there's some other parameters that the physical therapist wants them to do, that allows them that time without penalty to exercise, stretch, lift, to prepare them on a 40-hour light duty schedule to go back to their 56-hour work schedule.
And they're getting paid for that time?
Only if it's a workman's comp injury.
Which could be an off-duty injury?
It can be an off-duty, but yes. So I explained that inappropriately. They can do that. I'm trying to make sure I'm clear.
Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot, I know here, so I appreciate it.
An off-duty injury, they can just work out during their 40-hour just to get them back to, but that's all. So it's considered time work if they work out.
Okay, and next one under annual personal leave carryover up to 1,250 hours.
Yes.
Which in my poor math, 156 days. And that is, and I'm just, in my own mind, that is if they're retiring or whatever, if they have not used that, then they're getting paid for another 156 days.
Yes, again, under FLSA, that's compensable time.
Okay. Fine, okay. Personal leave and comp time sellback, I just need what that means.
They have the opportunity to sell that time down over the years so that, just to reduce it. It's determined to be a benefit. That is a long-term agreement in the contract, is that reduces their PL. They can reduce their PL by selling, I believe, 100 hours or up to 150 hours a year.
That's a certain amount of payback. My understanding, if it's over 100, there's another.
Most of them, what most contract employees will do is they will separate that out over pay periods. They'll say at the first of the year, they'll say, I am going to claim whatever the amount of hours they want to turn back in at the first of the year, and then they'll pay that out over their pay period. The problem, what we have an issue with is in PERSI, under our PERSI retirement program, they can't get large amounts because it's considered spiking and it will not go towards, it won't be counted towards retirement. And so they have to maintain consistency in their, somewhat in their pay, so they can't just at the end of the year sell 400 hours, or at the end of their career sell 400 hours back and get that counted for their retirement as well.
Okay, just two more. Uniform allowance, $850 per year. Is that, is there some accountability there? Do they just automatically get an extra $850, or do you actually see receipts?
They have, Councilman Bruner, they have a card, it's basically a debit card that has $850 a year on it, and that's audited by our administrative staff and our deputy chief of administration about purchases. Basically, that's for equipment, uniforms, and equipment that they use on the job. Under IRS rules, if anything that they purchase outside is considered taxable, and so that's audited internally. If it's ever audited by IRS, that they can, it has to be 100% for their employment.
So the firefighter, it's his or her own personal discretion what they spend of that $850, and if receipts, just clarification, if receipts are not turned in, then what happens to the balance?
It's not the receipts turned in, is we get their, their invoice or their monthly statement in our office. That statement comes directly to our office. We review it. If there's questions on that, then their supervisor will question those purchases.
Okay, and if not all the $850 is expended, what happens to the balance, I guess is my question.
What happens is they can keep the balance, and for the next, so it will transfer up to $1,500. The rest of that, if they don't keep it under $1,500 for the next year, that goes, this comes back to the city, that stays in our budget.
And I promise, my final one. So the annual insurance comparison, currently for this fiscal year, the payout will be per firefighter, $14,796. How does that compare to the last contract?
That was a 9% increase from the last.
That was my understanding. So that was a 9% increase.
Right. That increased over the years. Our last contract was a 3-year contract. This is a 1-year contract, and city approved a 9% increase in insurance benefits.
All right, and just final comment, discussion on this, just working through this. I mean, these firefighters are wonderful people, but I see no fairness at all between the regular city employee, and I realize it's union lobbied, and but I really struggle with this, and I will not be voting yes on this contract.
Any other comments or questions from you?
Okay, is there any further discussion? So we have a motion to approve the contract and a second on the floor. This is the discussion time. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, fellow council members, this was approved as to the amount of expenditures by City Council, so it doesn't go beyond what we approved. There was creativity in getting it done. A lot of things were cleaned up in the contract from the old. It is an improvement for the better of the city fiscally also.
Understand.
But it also takes care of the firefighters, and it is different for firefighters than the regular city employees because although I like Tom Points a lot, he's not going to save me when I have a heart attack most likely, or run into my house when it's on fire. Oh, you're welcome to. So there is a difference on that. So I'll look forward to the vote here.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Bruner,
No.
Hogaboom,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Skog,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, item 6.2, this is an action item. This is the discussion on the conveyance of a parcel of Lakeview Park property with a parking lot agreement to NDC. And I'd like to start on this item. We had a couple of people that wanted to testify, actually just one other person on an agenda item, and then David, we'll have you come up after that if that's okay. I don't care the order. It's
up to you, Mayor, on the order of speakers that you want to hear from.
okay. So I just want to be true to the action item. So I think you would be scheduled to present the item, but I don't, this is not a public hearing, and I don't want to get into a quasi-public hearing. So trying to keep it very clean. Anyone that wanted to testify on an agenda item, I'm going to let you testify first, and you have 3 minutes.
Mayor Kling, I'm sorry to interrupt. When we get close to the 2-hour mark, we take about a 5-minute break. Would it be appropriate to ask for one now, since
Taking your water away.
I don't want to step out during this meeting, but I do have to use the restroom. And Darrell, check my water. That's too much information, but can we have a 5-minute break?
So approved. We're
Thank you.
good.
All
Let's
right.
take a
Thank you,
5-minute
Mary.
break.
All right. I'll be-
started, and that way we can get done this evening.
All right. Thanks, Mayor.
You are welcome.
Victor's ready. Oh, Sandy's.
Did we lose our gentleman that was going to testify, or is it just you, David? Or is there someone else? Oh, you're going to, Sam. Okay, so, this sounds like I'm a real stickler, but I just want to be careful that we never give the appearance that we're in a public hearing, because we're not. And so I think I'm going to stick to the 3 minutes, anyone wanting to testify on an agenda item, we're going to do that first. So it's not part of it, but it's ahead of. And then, David, you're going to come up and you'll wrap, and we'll give you probably 5 minutes to give some more information and wrap whatever they didn't say, you get to say. How's that? Okay, so Sam, would you like to come up and share with us? You have 3 minutes to share your thoughts on this agenda item.
Thank you, Mayor, and
Thank you for sharing your name, address, and all that. Thank you.
I wanted to give everyone here one of these. I know some of the members at NDC got something like this. And
Thank you. We still need your name and address.
Yeah, Nate, we'll have your name and address next. So, thank you.
And I do have one.
Here, hand this down to Victor. Okay, so give us your name and your address where you reside.
Samuel Manjack, 12342 South Abbott Downing Way, Namp, Idaho, 83686.
Thank you.
I am representing Good News Food Pantry, and I just wanted to come up and just say what we do, what we're about, and some of the people that we're helping out over there in North Nampa. There was a few questions brought up in the NDC meeting, and we have some answers for that in the packet here, and I could get some more information to you if you have any questions about what we do. So just a little bit of background on how this all started and occurred. I am the brother of Dan Manjack, the pastor at Good News Community Church. And about a year ago, or a little bit before then, we started helping out the Lakeview Nazarene Church, and actually Idaho Food Bank was trying to establish something in North Nampa for a little bit, and Lakeview Church took that on, and from the beginning they said that they couldn't continue that, and going to some of those feedings and volunteering, some of the folks at our church, the Idaho Food Bank approached us to do that at our church across the street from Lakeview Park. And this was set up as a mobile food bank. So what that means is just we do it out of our parking lot. And it's looking at some of the demographics and things that we've gone through, we saw that we're not facilitating nearly enough. Speaking with Jackie Yarborough from Idaho Food Bank, she let us understand. She led us to understand that there's plenty of food. It's just not coming into this North Nampa where we are a part of, and we consider ourselves there at the church a part of that community. So we decided to form an entity so we could better serve that purpose and be more focused on that. And we came up with Good News Food Pantry. And so we've been doing that for about a year. We started in September 2017. And so, we've had plenty of people we've helped out at that location. Seeing that we need to do something more, we've looked at getting a permanent spot, and we've always been talking about that alongside the church. And it's come up that we could do a little more than that, and the need is really great. We help out currently about 110 to 115 families every month, And I just got an email from Jackie that she said that we could triple that, essentially. So, thank you, City Council, Mayor.
Madam Mayor, just clarification, who is Jackie?
Jackie Yarborough is the director of, at Idaho
Food Bank? Okay, thanks.
and it's in that packet.
Right, which I left at home.
Oh,
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Samuel, a couple of quick questions.
sure.
That I didn't get to ask at the NDC meeting. I understand that there were some plans developed for a building on your current site.
Yeah,
How big of a building was that?
I have a drawing I could put up on the,
Well, it's just, my questions are, it's how big?
it's about 800 square feet.
And was that attached to your current building or detached?
It was attached,
It was attached?
but it would be separate from the church. It would have a fire-rated wall, which make it a different,
Separate building? Okay, so the current site was adequate for an 800 square foot expansion?
that's all.
Nothing more than that? Okay. Well, that answers my question. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. Sam, just to kind of segue off of what Councilman Haverfield said, I was aware of plans originally for on the site at Good News Church and understood that there might have been some complications or something. So may I ask why those were abandoned?
They're not abandoned. So we had, David Bills had, we've approached David to help us with the construction of that facility, and he's seeing that it is limited in what we could do, and the need being so high, he sought other things that we could probably try to pursue to move forward on that. But we never abandoned that. I mean, if we need to do it from there, we still have to help out our community. So we're still going to do it there, rather than in the weather.
Mayor, follow up, please. So just for clarification, to make sure I'm understanding, so no matter what the outcome would be of the next procedure with the discussion of other property, Good News Church will continue to go ahead and build the 800-foot structure on their property,
If need be,
if need be?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.
So was there anyone else wanting to testify on this agenda item? Thank you. Thank you for giving us your name and address.
Mayor, Council, I thank you for your time. I'm Don Bentley. I'm from Boise, Idaho. I'm a member of this committee, Good News Food Pantry. I know a little bit about Idaho Food Bank. They're a wonderful organization to have in Idaho. Their warehouse is located in Boise. They have 400 partners that bring them food, and their intake is absolutely amazing in thousands of pounds of food per month. This, I kind of got put on the spot last week at a meeting by a couple of men. They asked some really good questions, so I'm going to address those questions first. I went to Snake River Elementary, not knowing that they had a food pantry. Met a wonderful woman there, Bari Romez. She runs what is called a resource room. She has one classroom, it's 103. It's one of the classrooms that has an exterior door. It's a man door. Idaho Food Bank, and I'm going to clarify my position in that meeting, Idaho Food Bank drops off 1 pallet of food a month. And that food is sort of geared towards elementary children. Some snack cups, Cliff bars, and things like that. The food they send home with the children, they don't want to send home something that would be cooked. They don't want kids going home, elementary kids, boiling some water and trying to cook something. The food they give out to their parents, they would give out a little more of that type of food. So, as for joining forces, they just don't have the resource that we need. They could give us some parking lot space, but that doesn't do any good for, we've already got parking lot space. She's got one room. She does an amazing job. She even does more than we do. She took on this a few months ago. She's running 2 resource rooms in 2 different schools. They have backpacks for children. They made sure already this year every student had a backpack. They put food in those backpacks for students that need food or want food for the weekend or the holidays when they're closed. Then, right now, those backpacks have been packed on an upper shelf, and now there's a whole wall of coats. And below that is a whole wall of shoes. And they want to make sure that every student is capable of a coat and a shoes and things like that. So I'm going to go on to bring up a more important part. Idaho Food Bank, since September of last year, we ran a program out of the parking lot. And I don't believe this program is sustainable, but we distributed 60,000 pounds of food. And that's 60,000 pounds of food that would not have come to North Nampa without this effort. I got an email from Jackie Yarborough, president of the Idaho Food Bank. She believes with this facility that we're proposing on this piece of property that will come up next, this pantry would be larger and would facilitate more pallets could be unloaded. Now, they have a model, and we're working through that model. And that model is they will bring a truckload of pallets of food. We've been getting 8 to 10 pallets. The model is to store that food in the cupboards of families, not in our facility. And I want to clarify that because I talked about storage, and we're not going to use storage. We want to store that food in the cupboards of needy families. So when they open those cupboards, they don't see 1 or 2 items left. They see 20 items. And so that's our goal. We want to distribute that food, and they want us to distribute that food the same day. So we want to get that food out. And so the possibilities here, and Jackie sent me this letter, is 2 to 3 times what we're doing. We distributed 60,000 pounds of food in the last 13 months. Imagine if that doubles. Imagine if that can triple. Now, she thinks that can triple. I believe that can triple. With a facility, a bigger facility, we need a facility that we can hand truck pallets, loads of food into and then distribute it and hand it out to people in need. And so I think that the point is that there's food in Boise every single week. It's available, and they take that amount of food, the total amount, they divide it up amongst pantries. We're a new pantry. We're handling an allotment that they have for North Nampa. North Nampa has over 60% of the people I've seen in one report are in poverty, but the more concerning part of that is 21% of the people are in extreme poverty. So food is just one issue, but there's thousands of pounds of food available to North Nampa. And so we're wanting to build a pantry completely on donated money, and we're wanting to use volunteers. And we've done the 60,000 pounds of food. I wanted to bring up, the volunteers have come from churches like the Nazarene, Christian churches, and the LDS Church. They've come from private organizations like St. Luke's that have been in our parking lot, and Health and Welfare, and just the community around Nampa. And Wednesday at 3, we will be doing another food distribution. And I'd like to invite all of you, if you have the time, to stop by and see what that food distribution is like. Thank you.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
A couple of questions. Don, I had asked the question before, and you said you've dealt with the Idaho Food Bank. The idea of a trailer rental or a trailer brought from the food bank and left, is that something that they consider? Is there a reason why they wouldn't allow a smaller setup like this to use maybe a refrigerated trailer that's, you don't have to worry about transferring refrigerated products into a refrigerated location? Is that something that's even available, has been discussed?
You know, I'm going to say one thing to that. I want to ask that question to Idaho Food Bank, but they have a model, and that model currently, we're doing a different model than most of the food pantries in Nampa. The ones that have been around for a while, they're open longer hours, several days, they're storing food. And what you're talking about is storing food.
Right.
The current model is not storing food. It's to distribute the food in one day.
So an 800 square foot building would be adequate then for that type of a setup?
800 square foot building will get us 8 pallets of food. That'll be adequate for what we're currently doing, but there won't be any room for any expansion.
I had heard in our last conversation that Garrity was considered a boundary. 16th, 11th were boundaries for that area of North Nampa. Is that a consideration? Is that a part of what is
Currently,
in
in
conversation?
the last 13 months, their course, Idaho Food Bank draws boundaries of where they're trying to serve. We have no boundaries. If someone comes in from anywhere in Nampa, they get food for their family. If someone came from Meridian, they might get some food. If somebody came from Boise, probably not, but
So people that live north of Garrity would be considered North Nampa, just like those that are south of Garrity?
we would give everybody, right now, anybody, a box or two of food. But
I'm just talking about the ability for the Good News Food Pantry to be able to service an area, geographical area, knowing that there are other food banks that are doing similar type of things, like the Nazarene Church as an example. Is there a target area? Obviously, you're not going to say no, but I'm just thinking, I mean, when you were looking at the area, of the boundaries, Garrity is not a boundary then?
there is a target area, but that target area is North Nampa. Around Liberty Park, there's a lot of smaller, older homes there. That means that they're more affordable for low-income families. They're within walking distance of where we want to give this food out. And transportation is an issue in that neighborhood. It's been called a food desert, as you probably all are aware. But it is an area of above average poverty.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I may. Don, thanks so much for your presentation and the research that you've done. Question, and it's a scenario question. I love the model that you're not going to store other than you're going to give it out that day.
It's not my model.
Well, I know, but
I do
to me, it may be just a touch unrealistic, especially with refrigerated food. So I'm trying to land here, and you may not have all the details at this point in time. So Idaho Food Bank delivers, I'm talking about the refrigerated aspect of the food. And say, so are they you're gonna unload that, you're gonna have it refrigerated, whether it's a 800 square foot or another facility, you plan on having refrigeration, or are they gonna stay until your servicing is done for that day and then take back what is not, say if there is excess? Or what happens to the excess? The bottom line is what happens to the excess?
Yeah, we're planning 2 refrigeration units, retail type refrigeration units, and 1 retail type glass door freezer unit.
Okay.
Put those foods in. But again, the model takes this food and within hours it's in people's refrigerators and not in our storage.
Yeah. But I guess my question is, how do you know that the amount they're bringing over is gonna get taken away?
Good question.
Or do you always run out?
No, we always get rid of it, okay? So
And that's how do you get rid of
when
it?
they bring over food, they tell us approximately how much to give to each family.
Okay.
And based on what's on that pallet, these are pallets of all the same thing. They're pallets, they're warehouse type pallets. So everything on that pallet is the same thing. Everything on the next pallet is another thing, and so on. So we typically get a box of onions. Those onions are in 50-pound bags. And with volunteers, we'll open those bags and repackage them into usable bags. So those are what we've been getting in the parking lot because they can be handled without a refrigeration.
Right.
So we haven't got any of the real perishables. But when Idaho Food Bank, when this is built and the refrigerations are in, they'll know the square footage and they'll know how much is too much.
Okay, so
And
what,
very
so what
good.
I'm hearing, interrupting a little bit, what I'm hearing is if you do have excess, you're gonna have a freezer space and a refrigeration space where that food will be held over until your next pickup time.
We will probably try to distribute that food to other places.
So you mobile,
No, food kitchens that are using food and cooking food. One of the places, this Wednesday, we're going to take everything that's left over to Maria's school pantry. And she says she'll take everything. I don't know.
okay, wonderful.
I hope we don't have too much, but she's got a small room. So that's a wonderful deal because she's taking care of children, and that's what my heart is in.
Yeah, and since you mentioned Maria again, which I need to meet this lady. I don't think
Yes.
I've met her. But, so, do you have any idea, and I don't expect you to have an answer to this, you know, she's taking care of the students there. Do you have any idea how many parents of those students actually come and pick up food from her external?
We had several discussions, and I didn't bring up too much of that, but I do have some things that we discussed. And I'll just read through the subject material, and you can ask questions specific on those subjects. Maria and I discussed first the Community Resource Center, and there's a lot more to that, but it's up to you how much time we spend on that. We also talked about obstacles and of getting food to families that need it. And Maria is one person who grew up in North Nampa. She grew up in a very poor family. And so she had some wonderful insights into what that's like. She also had a prideful father who wouldn't take food stamps and who wouldn't take a handout. It was a very interesting, enlightening conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Okay, so is there anyone else here to testify? Yes, Miss Jean. Go ahead and give us your name and your address.
Jean Mudgee, 12294 South Brunswick Way, Nampa, Idaho, 83686. I hope you had some clarification, but I think you guys know from previous presentations, food insecurity impacts far too many residents in Nampa in a significant way. It's actually Marty Ramos. She's at Snake River Elementary, and so it's M-A-R-I, Marty Ramos. She is the school resource coordinator for that school and now also at Endeavor, and they're lucky to have her. The intent of that, as stated before, is to supplement kids and families who really are in an emergent situation. It's mostly, if you look, it's mostly microwavable macaroni and cheese. Canned foods, because they, again, don't want kids to go home and get burned. Not all of our kids have the luxury of having a parent in the home. So they want to make sure they take items home that they can eat on their own and they have access to sustenance. I think the biggest challenge is we're more coordinated than you think. We actually meet every month. We meet the first Wednesday of every month at 9 o'clock at the Nampa Housing Authority, and it's called the North Nampa Food Access Committee, and Councilman Rodriguez has been there a number of times. We do coordinate what's happening, and Neil actually from the Nazarene Care House started the one on the other side because he knew from people who were accessing that they were missing a large segment from the north. They just don't have transportation. There's more than 10% who don't have cars. It makes it really hard to carry a box of food. Councilman Hogaboom has also been at the distribution, and it's not unusual to see older women using their walker to come up to the pantry and get a little box of food that they can push home. And that's likely their food for a month. They don't have access to walk that walker over the tracks and down to the care house. It's just not realistic for them. And I want to really impart that hungry kids do not learn. If you sit in class all day with a grumbly belly, you cannot perform well. The data bear it out over and over again. So the best thing we can give our kids is food in their bellies so they can learn. Let's give them a head start so they don't remain entrenched in this 30-year generational poverty tract. It's a pretty simple thing to do with the amount of food that we have access to. We have to have distribution sites that create access to people who have no way to get there. So we have done as much private sector lifting as we can. You guys have asked us to do that, and we've done it time and time and time again. This would create a sustainability in an area where we have really, really high level of poverty. It's not going to change today or tomorrow. We are committed to changing it, but it's going to take a long time. So any partnership that we can have, we appreciate. The kids don't get to choose what happens to them. It's incumbent on us to decide what kind of community we are. And food to me is vital. They do not learn, they do not grow, and they are not well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have questions? Sorry. I was out. It's private.
A little more energy, that's all, Gene.
I love our kids. They're your kids too.
Thank you for all you do, Jean. Okay, is there anyone else that had intended to testify? David Bills. Even though we've got your name, I don't have your address,
We wanted that, yeah.
just to be official.
34, David Bills, 3400 South Montego Way in Nampa. And so, Mayor, following back up to discussions that we've had and council members, prior discussions, and I'm going to attempt to answer 2 or 3 questions or clarify some of the questions that came up that kind of dealt with building and property, and then share with you again what the aspect here is on the proposal that's before you, and then have a handout for you for considerations that for the actual issues of transfer to consider, and go from there. So once again, we're discussing the city of Nampa participating in a conveyance of a parcel of land, 120 by 140. That's roughly a 0.4 acre parcel, so a little larger than a residential lot in some of your communities. And it's on 7th Street North. It's in front of the Lakeview Pool, which is not in the aerial shot there. And so the idea was, so to answer a couple of questions regarding square footage, the building that's proposed is roughly 800 square feet, limited by space. Difficult because of the overhead power and the water that's there. And so when I looked at that and said, well, this isn't any larger than a 3-car garage that is being built on multiple lots throughout the city of Nampa. And then when you deduct out the ADA restroom is 64 square feet, roughly 30 square feet for the mechanical room, another 100 square feet for the waiting room, and you get down to 600 square feet of actual building space for storing goods. You quickly learn that, or believe, that there's not a great deal of space. So in my process of responding to the question of getting involved or answering some questions regarding building, I decided to further involve, and in so doing, in wanting to help this organization get a building built, that I looked at the plans, I continued to think about it, and this was before I knew all the letters. And you read the letters that have been presented to you, you read the information, that was presented last week by email as far as the different groups, and I believe it actually confirms my thinking that the building would be outgrown very quickly. The second part is I believe that from a standpoint of going to the community and asking the community to participate in donating to build a facility that's going to help meet a need, that's important that people understand it's a separate organization, because that was a question I asked. Before I donate, I wanted to know, is this part of a church or is this part of a separate? No, it's a separate entity, it's a separate 501(c)(3). It's just that the church has agreed to allow this entity to be on their property. And so then I looked at it and said, well, okay, how do you involve other people in the community who maybe don't associate with that particular church, but yet they can associate with giving money to a food need and getting food distributed? And there's people who have that, who want to help in that regard. And so if you have a nonprofit entity with a board of directors and is meeting the needs in the community and working towards, and actually helping to take on a task that has been forfeited multiple times on the north side of Nampa, would it not behoove that we looked for a different piece of property? And consequently, in looking for that piece of property and serving on NDC, yes, looking at the possibility of how to help make that happen, then this piece fits a lot of issues. Not only for the food pantry, but it also potentially brings in a parking lot that has joint use with the city Parks Department and meets a need in the, for the Lakeview Pool. Has sewer in the park there, it's shown on this map, has water in the street. Certainly, there's a little bit of utility issues to be taken care of. So consequently, to answer Councilman Haverfield's answer about boundaries, that question was posed to me during the NDC meeting, and I'm the one who established the boundaries. It wasn't the food pantry folks who established the boundary. In my mind, mentally, I was thinking from North Street over to 16th or just beyond to where you get to the railroad tracks and go into Sugar. And mentally, I think of Garrity as a stopping point, even though I know there's a few residents north of Garrity, but the bulk of that area is industrial. And so that's what I consider the North Nampa. And if you drive the streets, you know the condition of housing. And so having been in housing for 24 years here in Nampa, I'm well aware of the new construction, the existing construction, and the areas that are in tough issue. However, I'll be the one to admit that I've given to a great deal to organizations who deal with housing issues, homelessness, food issues, etc. Unlike Councilman Hogebone, I haven't been there and personally handed out the boxes. I have worked from behind the scenes and done what I could from a different perspective. My goal is still to see that a cup of water and a piece of food gets handed to those in need. I feel challenged, and the reason I feel challenged is because I've been criticized the last week, and John Maxwell said, you're going to do good, you're going to get criticized, do good anyways. And here's an opportunity for the city of Nampa and NDC. It's not millions of dollars, it may be 80,000, maybe upwards of 100,000 to help bring that site online and put a permanent structure, one that can be expanded, one that can be utilized, with the provision of a reversion clause and or a lease provision. Here's an opportunity to step up and say, you know, we've had programs, we've had people talk initiative, committees get together, and you got a few people who are actually putting teeth to the action, but it's very difficult. And now,
Mr.
we've
Beals,
presented.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting, but can you just explain, since we're being videotaped, what your reversion, explain that to the public, what that means? Because I think that's a very crucial
I will when I go
aspect.
through these terms
Okay,
of
thanks.
the transfer.
All right, sorry.
I just think it's important that we take a look at the issue and not be narrow-minded. And yes, we have other organizations in the community. But if Nampa is going to be 100,000 and one day upwards of 110, 120,000, we need to understand that yes, organizations are going to meet, they're going to coordinate, but it's time to put something permanent in this particular area of the town. And other organizations have chosen to put stuff where they're at, but when you look at the list that was emailed to various people at the end of last week, there's only one other organization that really has anything on this side of town that's non-public, meaning schools or otherwise. You read the letters, I think the needs are there. I don't know enough about the needs other than I sensed 800 down to a 600 square foot building was inadequate, parking, etc. And so I propose what I've proposed, and I'll go through the items if you'd like, and then answer questions, etc.
Mayor Kling. David, I have one question for you when you get back to your microphone. Thank you.
While you're handing that out, I'm going to say, Samuel, we're going to need for our council records a copy of what you gave to council for the clerk. So if you could get us another copy of that at some point so that our clerk's office has it. Thank you. Yeah, if you've got it, that'd be great, and then she can include it in her packet. Thank you. Thank you.
My question's this, for the success of this food pantry to work, is it necessary that it has to either be on the church site or directly across the street from the church site?
I'm not necessarily that it's required or necessary. I just simply looked at where people are currently used to going to. Certainly, people learn a new location. I looked at it from the standpoint that when you have people coming, and if it's, right now it's once a month, if it went to once a week, that it's beneficial to have a basketball court across the street, as beneficial of the other park area to be there and open space. I don't know a whole lot. I know a few items, and I've heard stories over the years of the stigmatization of children and families going to the food line, so to speak. And it was commented here this evening as far as one family not wanting to do that. I know from my wife telling me stories at times, even though she taught in the private, but the issues come up when she substituted and also taught in the public that, there's a reason certain things are done at schools and certain reasons things happen. And when there's ridicule, et cetera, for going to certain locations or to get certain things, it shuts down what happens. And I feel like, I've had enough issue about knowing the pros and cons of people's styles and what they do and what leads to why they're in their positions. There's other people who, at no fault of their own, they're in a tough boat. And so I say all that because I think it would be helpful to be in a location that's next to a park or otherwise versus shoved in a corner or a difficult access. And I think here's a location that has good access, and therefore I think it presents the right light on meeting a need.
And that, maybe my question would be better addressed to Samuel or forget your first name, Don, regarding the proximity. The separation is true that you have a 501(c) separated from the church itself, so directly adjacent structure to the church isn't necessary. Obviously, the question about being across the street, the pushback we're hearing is giving up park space for this. When I look at the urban renewal plan and I see the areas available all the way up and down 11th Avenue North on Garrity, there's quite a bit of property that is available that the NDC might be able to be involved with as far as in discussion. The fact that this is directly on a piece of park ground is giving me some pause, has from the beginning, and now with the pushback from the taxpayers of Nampa, we have to listen to them as well. But I think what is being done here is a tremendous asset to be able to be provided and help those folks in North Nampa. So if it could be looked at maybe in another general location. I mean, I talked to the mayor about the Hispanic Cultural Center being underutilized, available. Would that be, well, Don wasn't even aware that Snake River Elementary had a food pantry until I made the comment. We start hearing, well, it doesn't handle everything, but it does some things. But partnering up, might there be other ways to lower the investment cost to the Good News Church folks and allowing NDC to be more actively involved in maybe a different piece of property. I'm saying more than I expected to say, but the reality is I want to see this be successful and to save them money if possible. If there's a different way to approach this, that might make more sense to the community as in whole as well. So.
Well, Mr. Haverfield, I understand what you're saying, and I looked at several of those issues in the property search side of looking at things. When I looked at this piece, I contacted Darren and Cody with Department of Parks, and we met out there and discussed it and talked about it. I looked at it and say it's a piece of grass that's getting mowed. I don't know about utilization. They were contemplating moving the horseshoe pits to this site. But there's other room in Lakeview. We discussed how a transfer like this may be beneficial to them and the joint use agreement on a parking lot. definitely met their need. They've been wanting to expand parking, but they haven't wanted to take it from parks funds, and so they've been trying to figure out, what do we do? And so in terms of robbing or utilizing park space, sometimes there's an abundance of park space in one area of town and a lack of park space in another. And in this case right now, that piece is underutilized. And so that's why I pursued the conversation with them and then pursued the conversation onto the public entities. Doesn't mean that, but if NDC is willing to spend $400,000 to $600,000 for a piece of ground on Garrity, that may be a benefit.
And that is not what I'm offering tonight. All I'm saying is, for the NDC to participate, it might be a different type of a conversation, a different approach that might make more sense, that just from the mere standpoint of giving up park space, obviously it might be underutilized. But then again, it might be the most important piece of ground in 20 years from now. As far as when you give it up, you can't get it back. So I'm not trying to get into an argument about it. I'm just saying there might be different ways to approach it, and I'll let the rest of the council weigh in on the conversation. But when you think about the old Paul's building sitting there vacant on 11th Avenue and being of the size and nature that might be more advantageous to look at, and maybe it's a partnership with the owner of that building that can be approached. There's different things that we can discuss, is all.
Well, there's several different things, and I guess being cognizant of the dollar issue, I didn't believe that NDC would want to release above $100,000 if they even went to the $100,000. And so any of the properties on 11th Avenue and any properties on Garrity would put the expenditures easily up to the $500,000 range just for the land, and not talking utility infrastructure, parking lots, otherwise. And so now you're talking a major event rather than a minor event. And so when you have a piece like this and can continue to make something happen, this is a pretty small financial aspect compared to the others.
Okay.
So I'm going to pause real quickly. I have a quick question for legal. I just want to make sure we're not moving into public hearing type environment. Are we good with the discussion as it's taking place?
Yes, Mayor, this is not a public hearing,
Okay.
and I think this kind of discussion is just what was on the agenda.
Okay, thank you for clarity. And then Councilman Levi, did you have a comment?
Thank you for bringing that question, because that does concern me with us wanting to continue to question other people back and forth, that maybe that this is something, and I don't know how it would go if this is something maybe that needs to be brought to a public hearing to have others have their input, but with NDC being involved, I don't know how the legality of that works. So I had questions, but because I don't want to even be skirting on the edge of things, I don't really know how.
Well, I don't think we are according to legal, so if you do have questions, you're welcome to ask them.
And perhaps, I don't know, and here's my dilemmas, I don't know, Mr. Bills, if you're the one that I need to be asking about this, or if I need to be asking other people, and that's where a public hearing process, I think, comes into play, so.
So let's pause and ask legal. If Councilman Levi has questions for someone that's sitting in this room, does she have the liberty to ask that question?
Yeah, yes, and understand that a public hearing is a procedure specifically outlined by Idaho Code for certain types of things that come before you, and this is not one of them. The significance of the public hearing is that due process rights attach to be heard, but this is just simply a discussion. Maybe you've opened it up to whomever in the audience wanted to participate, and that's been done, and I think if you have questions for those folks, you can certainly ask them.
Thank you. So kind of on the line of where Councilman Haverfield was going, and I really appreciated you bringing up some of those questions and concerns, because I too have been peppered with a lot of questions over the last several days about this move. And one of the things in visiting with our chief of police at the beginning of last week, we were talking about our growing city. And we were talking about as cities grow, that we know that crimes of opportunity grow as well. And so with that known, I'm looking at a food bank in our park where there are lots of kids, they're at the swimming pool, et cetera, in the proximity to a church. And I want to be careful in how I say this, but I'm very confident because it's a question that other people have asked me, and so I'm asking on their behalf, is also, as a city grows, you bring in a lot of homeless people. And I want to differentiate something right away. I, too, have worked at that food bank, and I've seen the families that have come in there. I've loved on the families. I've personally carried boxes to their homes that have been 2 and 3 blocks away. I've built a rapport with them as I've been able to serve them. And so I'm not saying anything about our citizens in our north area of Nampa, but as we bring in other people, and we might bringing in some people that are perhaps homeless and have some kind of difficult challenges that they're overcoming, how would we look at this in light of if we were planning to have zoning for this type of a facility that might be bringing in people that we might perceive as possible a threat to children? Is that something we even need to be considering, is the safety? And then I look at as far as the green space, and that was brought up again, and I appreciate that tonight. We're giving away green space. And I know from my own study and watching trends of growth, and especially with business, when businesses are looking to come to a community, one of the things they're looking for is the green space in our city, because they don't want to move to another, like an LA or a miniature LA, where there's brick buildings and building after building, and there's not that aha moment that medical studies have backed up that we need to have in a community. The other comment that I guess I would make, and you can sort out what's applicable for you to answer, is with a facility that could accommodate more food, and I believe Mr. Haverfield also touched on this as well, would we be increasing the distribution as far as times and dates so that that food is not sitting stored, but we are reaching more people, as Don commented, that we could probably double or triple who we're reaching? So I apologize throwing all that out there at one time, sir.
No, it's fine. It's the information, your last question was also asked at the NDC meeting last week. And the intent of having a facility that distributes and the ability to expand is that you can do it more often and you can handle more than what they're currently receiving. And the letter, I believe, that's in the packet that was handed out indicates, or an email thereafter from the person that Sam referred to, talked about we could expand what you're currently getting by almost double if you had the facility to distribute, if you had the ability to do it. And so I believe that that's the whole idea behind questioning the existing plan that's ready for a permit was, this is great, this will get you by for a few months, but if you're in here for the long haul, you're gonna find it tight and you have no further expansion. And the tough part for me is when you start donating and putting energy into a facility that isn't going to last very long, I feel like, have you robbed your donors? And so therefore, yes, it's there to expand. In terms of the safety and issue, whether it's on the south side of North Street or the north side of North Street, the issue's the same. If you have concern about those who are homeless, derelict, have mental problems, etc. in your community, I suggest you walk several of your parks at 10 to noon during the day. Go near the playground equipment and you'll find those individuals watching what's going on at those activities. I'm assuming your police department probably has an idea of those aspects as well. And you say, well, why would I know that? Because I had my 9 grandchildren there this summer, and I observed the issues that you're referring to. And as far as the aha moment, candidly, I don't think your Bronco project or your other projects that are before you is going to go drive 7th Street North and have an aha moment in front of that piece of grass. I'm saying that candidly because we use those moments to avoid the north side. I've done it for many years. And so from my side, from my perspective, losing the park space, you're gaining a whole lot. And I think it's a great investment, candidly. And from a protection of taxpayer expense, I've been one of the toughest critics of taxpayer expenditures. And some would even say, why is Bill's even proposing this type of a situation? Because I think the need is acute, and I think it's time to step up. In terms of what I've handed to you, council, in terms of process, legal counsel on both sides would be guiding it, but what we're talking about is really more of a conveyance in light of the parking lot issues that are moving already. And so it'd be a conveyance to NDC. And so what I've jotted here or put down for you is looking at that potentially NDC would take care of legal description and surveying costs, installing and connecting utilities. City of Nampa would provide an easement for the sewer service because it would need to go in deeper into the park area. That there'd be an allowance for a 5-foot setback of the parking lot from the east property line if a double row of parking is installed. There's been 2 layouts looked at in that regard. Since the Parks Department knows intimately the sprinkler systems and the sprinkler irrigation supply, that they would be involved in the disconnect and also the reconnect and supply of irrigation. Again, this is a joint use property type deal, so when it's done, it would look like it belongs where it's being proposed. The parking lot would be at least 10 spaces, but potentially double that if we go double row. That part of that is NDC's decision. And then, again, the joint use agreement for that parking lot would be part of the terms of the agreement, and all those things to be finalized before any transfer. And then finally, something that I've communicated prior but also reiterated last week and again this evening, is that in the event that the food pantry closes, that the land reverts to NDC and or to the City of Nampa if NDC is not an active entity. And the reason I've proposed that, and the Food Pantry Board understands that, is once again because of these calls that you may be receiving regarding public use of land, et cetera, that it would revert back. So it's not a, hey, we got it. No, this is for a particular cause. This is for a betterment of our community. In the event that it doesn't last, then that it's going to come back. So the City of Nampa really hasn't lost anything. They're participating in something moving forward. And when you think about having a building there sitting and other uses, finally, not a part of this sheet, but has been discussed, is that besides handing out food boxes, there's other groups who try to meet needs, and with those who have need, and they partner with. I think Terry Riley put a letter in there. St. Al's put a letter in there. I think Mr. Manjack referenced St. Luke's. So there's other aspects of trying to provide a location that feels a little bit more community in a general sense. So other questions I'm glad to answer. Obviously, I'm passionate tonight about the situation, and I don't normally push very hard in certain circumstances. I try to go forward, and I've taken the lead on this one because of what I sense is a definite need.
Madam Mayor, just a question. During my lunch hour, I drove out there today, so I'm just trying to get, so I drove by, I saw the parking lot in front of the swimming pool.
Yes.
So it is the property just directly west, that grass area just directly west of that?
It is.
Okay.
So we took this overhead from engineering because of the utilities, but the pool would be sitting right in this area.
Right, but, so when you said in front of the pool, it's actually, it would be to the west, kind of the west.
More kitty corner.
Kitty corner, yeah, because the parking lot goes all the way to the street currently.
Correct. This is the parking lot right in front of the pool.
Okay.
And so then this is the parcel off to this side here.
Okay, and not to sway, but I mean, that green space is not, I don't know what is utilized, and I didn't even see any ducks out there currently, so. Anyway, okay, enough.
I would like to, David, thank you very much.
Okay.
If we have further questions, we'll let you know. I'd like to ask Darren, Just a quick question regarding, I know that we have a citizen that did express some concerns over safety at the swimming pool with a homeless population coming close. And Darren, I just wanted to ask, I know that you guys have had some discussions about this. Do you have any concerns?
About safety of the park, no.
Right? Okay, swimming pool, you don't have any concerns about it?
Have any concerns.
Okay, are there any other concerns that you have regarding the proposal?
You know, I don't have any concerns, just to answer a couple of the, or to address a couple of the comments that came up here. I'm a person that likes green space, and of course, you never like to see your green space go away. But if this were going to be a gas station, or if it were going to be a store, we're going to put a house there, I would certainly oppose it, not be in favor for it. But when you look at parks, parks is about green space, but it's also about helping people. And part of helping people is their wellness and their ability to survive in a community. And feeding them is important to me, so I would support this project.
Darren, thank you very much.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can I, Darren, is it okay if I
Yes.
ask questions? Darren, okay. Can you, do you know how many acres Lakeview Park is total?
It's
Sorry, putting you on-
about in the 40s, 44, 45, something like that.
This piece of property, obviously, there's a private residence that looks like to the west of this.
That's correct, yes, that's privately owned.
To the east of it is the parking lot that extends up to the pool.
Yes.
And I think Mr. Badger is going to pull up a better picture. There it is. Okay. I noticed that it's almost like that this property is insulated a little bit because there's trees, it looks like, to the back that creates almost sort of like a
Yeah,
a
there
buffer
are
zone.
trees in the back. I don't know if it would,
Yeah.
you'd consider it insulated, but there are trees, and it's a natural rectangular piece of property. And like I said, another reason why we support it is because of the parking and the difficulty of parking for the swimming pool. And so that's another reason why we support it. And that if the property was if it was not used for a food bank at some particular time, that it could revert back to the city. That would be important to the Parks Department as well.
Yeah, I've been over there a lot. I actually assumed that lot was just an undeveloped house lot because of the way it's situated next to that home in between the parking lot. So I never even thought it was connected to the park until the discussions arose. But you mentioned the possibility, we've been to that pool, and how many parking spaces are in that?
Probably 25 or so. I
Okay.
haven't counted them.
The times we've gone, they've been packed full, that parking lot. So you indicated that you were looking at the possibility of adding parking at some point, or had
We've
just
talked
contemplated?
about it, and then, you know, what made it difficult was that it's a 10 week span. The pools are open for 10 weeks, and the expense of putting the parking lot in for just that 10 weeks of use has been a reason why we turned away and chose to spend money in different ways.
Got you. However, a parking lot would be an amenity for the families going to that pool.
Yeah, and we do believe that the times that would be needed are not competing with the food bank, and so that would be an advantage too.
Do you anticipate increased demand for that pool as Nampa grows?
Yes.
Okay. One other question, the basketball courts below, I think that's Creech's basketball courts. Is that correct? Named after former police chief who tragically passed away in a plane accident, if I recall. So I've been to that church a lot, and from what I understand, there's no actual dedicated parking that I'm aware of on that basketball court. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't seen any.
No, there's no dedicated parking. It would be on-street parking or parking in the pool area.
What's the nearest parking lot for dedicated parking? Is there something east of that softball facility? No, you got to go all the way back over there. Okay.
Yeah,
And the basketball courts are designed to be a walking, it's kind of for people who walk to the court, so it's not for people who park there. But I'm guessing people maybe park in the church parking lot and play at the basketball court if no one's.
Yeah, it's
going.
possible.
Okay. You mentioned the horseshoe pit. There's horseshoe pits on the other part of Lakeview that
we've
get used
been
quite
in-
a bit. So is this an expansion of horseshoe pits or
No,
replacement?
we've been in conversation about the horseshoe pits that are on the corner of Garrity and 16th there. One of the issues with the horseshoe pits are that they're now in a very high traffic area. And so the people that are using the horseshoe pits, there's a lot of people as they drive by yelling things and stuff, and it's just not a very good spot for the horseshoe pits. And in addition to that, it's a very visible area too, and so we think that we could beautify that intersection by moving the horseshoe pits out of that particular area. But I think there's also other areas that we can move the horseshoe pits to in our park system, if it's not Lakeview Park into another park.
Okay, all right, thanks. Thank you.
Are there any other further questions for Darren? Sandy?
Mayor, I have a question, but I don't know that Darren could specifically answer it, and our planning and zoning guys aren't here, so I'm not sure who to
Okay.
ask.
What is your question? We'll see who could answer it.
My question stems with, first, the building that has been approved and in process on the church property. Did it have to get noticed to the up to 300 feet around the church for people to come to a public hearing through planning and zoning? And then building on that would be, because this proposed property is city property that would apparently transfer to NDC, does that eliminate any notification to the existing property owners in the area?
That's a good question. Daniel, could you answer that question? Thank you, Darren.
So Mayor, Councilman Levi, there would have been no notice on that building permit. It would have likely just been considered an accessory use to the church. And so there would have been no, churches are allowed uses in every zone within the city. And so they would not have required anything there. Looking at this, the park property is an RS6 property. And so I don't know if you've looked at with planning and zoning, any zoning issues that we may have to go through there. It may require a conditional use or a rezone in order to put that on this property. But if that's something you guys are interested in, that's obviously something that is within your purview.
Daniel, thank you. Are there further questions? Okay, it is getting late, and I think we should move forward. I do have one suggestion. If the council would so choose to move forward with this, I would like to suggest that on number 7, that last clause, that the property would revert to the city of Nampa, and that it's the city of Nampa property and adjacent to the school, that if we did move forward with this, that the clause would say that the property would revert back to the city of Nampa. That's the only recommended change that I would have. So what is the will of the council?
Well, there's no action to be taken tonight, and I have.
There's none?
I have
Okay.
more questions than can be.
Then we have
posted.
time?
Yes.
Okay. So, actually, we had it noted as an action item, but it's not an action item, is that correct? We're not looking for action?
Well, I just understood this to be
Okay.
discussion tonight.
Okay. So, with that said, council, do you have any further discussion this evening, or shall we move?
Go ahead,
Okay.
Councilwoman Levi.
Thank you, Councilman Hogaboam. And Mayor, one final point of clarification for those. I have to answer to the residents in the city of Nampa, so that is why I'm asking the questions I'm asking. It has nothing to do with the fact that I don't see the need, because I sit on actually a committee that is dealing with a mobile little hut going around and having fresh produce and vegetables available. I always have to come back to the fact that I have been hired by the residents of our city to represent them, and I believe that it is my responsibility to make sure that those questions are brought forth for your consideration, but also to get answers.
Thank you.
Mayor Kling.
Okay.
Also, along with that, Councilman Levi, what Gene said hit home, and it is food for children. It also increases education. It also increases family environment. And it creates a better community. How can we go wrong here? But I, like my fellow Councilman Skog, I do have questions of legalities. And I think if we can clear those up with Mark, if I can ask questions in a public hearing entity, then I think that's appropriate. This is city property, and that does concern me, but if we can get through it, cross our Ts and dot our Is, I'd like to see where that ends up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Hogaboam.
Yeah, I was going to ask for clarification on recommended future steps to Councilman Skog's point about further discussion would this be become an action item for a future meeting or a proposed public hearing item?
Well, for me, I have legal questions, but possibly for bond counsel with NDC, that type of thing, and that's just the place to get those answers.
Okay. We'll try to briefly. I haven't said a whole lot tonight, so I think I have a few minutes. My reserves. I haven't said a whole lot.
I shouldn't say a word.
Well, the rollout on this project obviously has been subject to a lot of scrutiny in the eyes of the public because of, I think, some confusion based on whether the proper statute was used at our last council meeting. There's a lot of questions about that. There was an NDC meeting where, again, the press, and not blaming the press, Aaron, but the press doing their job, reporting on the happenings of the city, and there's a lot of anxiety in the city when there, at least the appearance or the concern by many members of our city when you hear NDC project, and the way it was rolled out has created some scrutiny. So and David has spoken to that, and I'm sure he's felt that a little bit this week, and so it's unfortunate the way this was rolled out, and so I think that continuing the discussion is something that I would be supportive of. NDC projects create fear and anxiety among many members of our public, and especially if they hear a parking lot attached to it, or parking and NDC associated in the same sentence, creates a lot of scrutiny. So that's any project that involves city, NDC, even if the merits of what it accomplishes, the ends, are commendable and worthy of consideration, there is some cynicism in our city about anything associated with such projects. So I want to make sure that there's transparency and openness, a public hearing where we can hear from members of the public. We've heard from some tonight, and that was good. But again, I was observing the rollout of this just as a member. Yes, I'm on city council, but I'm subscribed to the Idaho Press, and reading the newspaper articles like other members of the public and trying to make sense of what was taking place in the NDC meeting. We did have an executive session. I'm not going to disclose all those discussions, but as this was rolled out, there's some concern about how this was rolled out, and so I think, again, further process. But a mechanism to get a tiny, less than a half acre on a large parcel of park property dedicated for something that 5,000 pounds a month, if you did a modest calculation of $2 a pound, that's $10,000 worth of food going out a month. If that tripled $30,000 worth of food a month, you're looking at $300,000 plus every year of food coming into the community and benefiting people. It's really hard to say, a half acre, less than a half acre of land yielding over $300,000 every year of food into our community. Seems like it would be a good utilization of the space compared to what it's caused, even though I am concerned about green space and like other fellow members are. The parking lot needs is a secondary concern, as Darren has mentioned. The cost of a parking lot, it doesn't really merit the amenity for 10 weeks. However, if there was a parking lot there, it would be used for the pool. The parking lot would also be used for the basketball courts, I believe, across the street. So I want to keep an open mind on that. Again, and I appreciate, Darren, your comments. I think you spoke from your heart. I think, David, you spoke from your heart. I think everyone who spoke from their heart. So I think, and none of our hearts, I hope, are questioned as we deliberate and contemplate future steps. But we also do have to protect, I think, the reputation, the integrity of NDC in the eyes of this public and how we use it. If it's a mechanism really just to get this property to the food bank, and if the food bank ceases to exist and that property, even the improvements on the building, if I understand, that would revert back to the city. They would get the building that was developed, even though we're not going to spend a penny on the building itself, if I understand things correct. So the reversionary clause, it's good to see that on paper, but I think this is the first time that something has been made public for the public to know, unless I'm mistaken, if it was mentioned at the NDC meeting as far as a public record. But I'm very much concerned about the public being able to set an eyes on the documentation that we're deliberating so that we can hear from them. So there, I just used all my 5 minutes for the evening, but I would like further exploration and continued feedback from the community and to deliberate this further.
Thank you, Councilman Hogaboam. So that said, I think what I'm hearing tonight, and I think I want to assure to everyone that's working on this, we're committed to a food bank. I think there is knowing this council and discussions, we believe in taking care of the people of our community, and I so appreciate the work that's being done. So I have no concerns over that whatsoever. There's a unified front that we care about the people, we care about seeing that they're fed, really appreciate the work of everyone here. Let's continue the discussion. We'll bring it forth at a future date after we clarify and get answers to certain questions. And when I say the commitment to a food bank, the commitment to caring for our people, there are different ways to get that done. So I'm not committing the council in any regard here. I'm just saying that I know that everyone's heart is that we appreciate the work that's being done. We just got to figure out how to do it. So we'll bring it forward. And at that, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that was item 6.2. We're going to move to item 6.3. This is an action item, and this is to authorize the mayor to sign the purchase, sale agreement, and lease agreement with First Interstate Bank for 500 12th Avenue South. I've asked Patrick if he would just come speak to us for just a minute, if the council so desires, and he would just speak to us based on the due diligence that's been done on the property. Beth Einig is not here this evening, and so I don't know if council has any questions regarding the agreement. Legal has reviewed the agreement and approved the agreement for signature. So would the council like to hear anything from Patrick on due diligence? I will say he's completed due diligence, so.
I'm fine making a motion to allow you to sign the purchase and sale agreement and a lease agreement with First Interstate Bank.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
And for those here or those online that are watching that roll call vote quickly, this is not a flippant vote. It's been given serious consideration and they've reviewed the information. So just please know that when it's that fast, it isn't that it isn't without due consideration. Okay, item 6.4 on the agenda. This is a discussion of issues related to towing abandoned and impounded vehicles and the contract for the city of Nampa. And my goodness, Joe Ramirez has been here waiting. Come on up. So to give us some information on this, unless Chief Huff, did you want to? I'll defer to them. Okay, so you've been fully dressed in the whole uniform, sitting there working hard so that your time wasn't wasted.
Trying.
Thank you for your pause and waiting this evening.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate it. So would you like to give us just a quick overview of the program and how it works?
Absolutely. Mayor, council, and staff. The program has been effect, or at least under my watch, for about the past couple of years. And we've kind of got two things that have molded together. We have a abandoned vehicle program, and we have a tow rotation that both have worked hand in hand, if you will. In the city of Nampa, we have currently 13 tow companies that are under our, if you will,
will drop whatever they're doing at a moment's notice to come out and help us with a crash or a traffic hazard that we need a tow truck for. And they are on a rotating list. To get on that rotating list, they have to be vetted before they get to that point. And then we get a ton of crashes in the city and a ton of different kinds of traffic hazards that they have to respond to. So they are required to do certain things. I think if you have a council packet with that, it shows our regulations for that process for the tow trucks that are in our city. From that is where we get our contract tow, if you will. We allow folks from that list to be able to put in an RFP type situation where if they want to move forward with picking up abandoned vehicles and being the tow company for our needed tows for the police department, impounds, evidence, broke down police cars, which I have to thank you, council, for giving us the Tahoes here over the past few years. We haven't had to use them too often for broke down cars. Prior to the Tahoes there, it was pretty regular. In 2016, we did agree, based on an RFP process, to have Crossroads Towing be our tow company for those types of tows. And when we put it out there, we were looking for several things. Back to the tow rotation. The tow rotation gives us an opportunity to be able to vet different companies. And by vet, I mean that they build a history with us on how well they do, how they respond to the calls, how fast they respond, how dangerous or not dangerous they are. We've had a few cars fall off tow trucks when they were driving away. So those are all things that we get a chance to build a history with by having that tow rotation and only allowing those folks to be the ones to put in for that Nampa City tow. Reason being is we want to have a company that represents the city of Nampa well, the Nampa Police Department well, and we're able to do that by vetting out those that are dangerous, those that don't respond on time, those that have issues with business relations outside of our tow rotation. Those get reported to us also. So what happens is, or what happened in 2016 is Crossroads came out on top of that RFP based on the proposal they made to us. They pick up all our abandoned vehicles, all the information's forwarded to them. They pick up abandons, and they also come out for any cars that are police cars that are disabled, and they do it for a extremely reasonable price. The only time that they charge us is any time they have to bring a police car back to the police department, and it's, or a car that we need for evidence back to the police department, and it's $100, period. Anytime they take anything to their lot, they don't charge us anything. So that's the only stipulation that we have in their contract. So they've been doing a great job for us. They work with us really well when we do have paperwork errors or a complaint from a citizen that says, hey, something went haywire here with this tow. They've always been very gracious to let some of those fees slide or work with us when we do have to fork out a couple of bucks to resolve a citizen's complaint. So, and I'll stand for any questions for the tow process.
Mayor Kling. Couple of questions for you. You didn't talk about the impound yard, where that is located.
It's actually Crossroads Impound. They're the ones that, are you talking about abandoned vehicles?
Yeah, where the vehicles are towed to.
It would be Crossroads lot out off of the boulevard there. It's, what's the address? Hoffman Lane, right next to where Bernil Tire used to be, about the 2500 block of Nampa Caldwell Boulevard.
So that is not in the city limits of Nampa?
No, it is not.
Okay. Question for you. When I'm looking at this RFP that was put out in 2016, it states that the award of contract shall be awarded to one qualified applicant that is already providing service on the Nampa Police Department tow rotation. So you're only looking at sending out RFPs to those that are those 13 that are currently listed?
That is correct.
Okay, and does that include every tow company in the city limit, or is there certain companies that are excluded at this time?
It does not. If you go to our tow regulations, there's a radius basically that allows companies from Caldwell, Middleton, wherever, as long as they're tow storage lot is within the 10 miles of City Hall, actually, is what we use for.
So the 13, are there any, of the 13, are there any, I guess that's the wrong question. Within the city limits of Nampa, are there any tow companies and yards currently excluded from your list of 13?
Yes, anybody that's not on our tow rotation would be excluded from that.
So how do you get on the tow rotation then?
Every year, we do have an open enrollment, if you will. Anyone we've had issues, currently we have 3 tow companies that are on suspension that are, we have a tow committee where our officers go through all the complaints and all the issues that we've had throughout the year, and at that point in time, if we decide that a tow company's operating outside of our tow regulations, we remove them from the list, and then once a year, we allow other tow companies to apply for, go through the vetting process, and then be added to our tow rotation. It's usually every March.
So the other towing that goes to this impound yard, you had a different term for them than the tow rotation? Or are they the
It
same
would be our
people?
preference tows
Preference tows. How do you get on that list?
through the RFP process.
Okay, and the RFP process hasn't gone out since 2016?
That is correct.
Even though it states here that it's every 365 days, did you just roll over their contract again?
It also says in there that if we're satisfied with the business that they're doing because of the monetary amount that they're charging us, we can continue to stay with that company.
Okay, so if we were, as a council, wanted to open up the RFP process at this point in time, you would have a list of companies that you have been happy with, and we can add to that list if we so choose.
Yes, we would, but the general rotation based on the the people that would be qualified to go to the preference tow would only be those that are currently on our rotation list.
Per your current policy,
Correct,
which could be changed.
of course.
Okay, thank you.
So
I am not getting to talk tonight much.
please, go ahead.
Madam Mayor.
He's been a
Yes.
good boy.
Thank you. I'm doing my part to keep these meetings a little shorter, and but some of you are failing.
I'm not sure he could have.
Joe, there's a concerned competitor here not long ago, and he's talked about citizens being way overcharged in comparison to what he would charge. That's a real consideration that, as council members, we're concerned about. Might be great for the city entities, such as the police department, but if citizens are getting charged double or triple to get their cars towed when they're already in a hard position, they're confiscated, impounded, or abandoned vehicles, that's tough, and that's why we want to look at this RFP or RFQ again. What say you?
Well, unfortunately, and I'm familiar with the process because I've been doing this for a while, there are no state regulations on what a tow company can charge. They can literally charge whatever they want to. There is nothing anywhere that's set in stone, either by a city ordinance or state law, that says a tow company has to charge X amount of dollars. It's all based on the fair market charging that they're doing around the city. All of the 13 that are currently on our rotation, we ask that ahead of time that they provide us with a list of what their current pickup fees, what their storage per day fees are going to be, and if that's part of the vetting process. If it is 10 times outside of the other 12 that are that they are supplying those amounts to us, it's somebody that we wouldn't consider just because of the fact that they are overcharging, and it's most of the other 13 or the other ones that we're looking at are all within the same range. They can't change their rates. They can't adjust what they're going to charge for a pickup. We already know what those rates are ahead of time. Now, anybody that's not on our rotation, they can charge whatever they want. They don't have any guidelines, anything that holds them to a specific amount. So it's a benefit to the city, to the citizens, to allow us to vet them to say, okay, this is where we're going to hold you to. Our committee has never had any complaints about overcharging of anybody that's on our rotation. Most of the overcharging complaints come from folks that are not on our rotation. The fact that they are on our rotation gives us the the hook, if you will, to pull them out of that rotation at any time. And we have several, again, on suspension for different violations. And that's a direct impact to the bottom line. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So we can't do that with anybody that's not on our rotation. They can charge and do whatever they want to the citizens of Nampa and charge them as much as they want to.
Well, I'm not talking about price controls, but is this current provider charging more than others would? Do you know?
What current provider?
The
Crossroads.
Crossroads.
No, they're all within, in comparison to the other 12 companies that are on our rotation, they're within the norm, the means that we have out there.
Mayor Kling? Joe, where would I go to get that list of 13 and the other 3?
The other 3,
The ones that are not allowed?
from me.
Okay. So is that something you can provide us in an email, or do you have a?
Sure. I can provide you with all the rates, the rate sheets, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to see that list, along with the list of the 3 companies that are on suspension or whatever you would call them.
I do think it's important that we as council are not advocating for any given business.
Right.
And it almost feels that way. So I just want to make sure that we are not doing that. That the internal process, and I want to make sure that we fully understand, if we have a citizen that's in an accident and they need a tow company, that is a rotation. That's that rotation. So they're not giving out one name. They'll call, the next one on the list is X. And then the next accident, the next one on the list. We go through this rotation for the tow company. So every tow company that is on that list, that is found to be in good standing, is included, and those names are given out based on that. Anyone, for example, the gentleman that was here at the last council meeting, he could be, if he meets the criteria of the city, he could be on that rotation list. It is a criteria of the city that before we go out to RFP and choose a company that gets the impounding side of it. And that impounding side is someone that is incapacitated, that cannot, either it's an abandoned vehicle or it's an accident and they're not able to make a choice. That's when that other company comes in. The majority of our accidents are going through that rotation, is my understanding.
That is correct.
Okay, and so I just want to make sure the council really understands what we're dealing with here. The other company has the opportunity to join that rotation if they meet the criteria. So I just want to be careful we don't have our staff go through a bunch of hoops that we don't need to spend our time on, although thank you that you do have the information. It's very clear cut. As I reviewed the work that's been done and how you're managing it, I have no concerns over it whatsoever. There is an equal opportunity for anyone to be involved, and they can join that. I think you said on an annual basis, you give opportunity for people to join the rotation. The only thing that hasn't gone out is you've not gone out for RFP on the company that has the impounding contract and that provides that service. That's been 2 years. And you could go out at any time, but I think we need to be careful we don't encourage and expect staff to go out for an RFP because of one entity that actually has the opportunity to be part of the rotation, and that is a requirement. So I feel like the process you guys are doing, the policies that you have in place, you've done a great job, and I fully support what you're doing today.
Mayor, council, and staff, just a point of clarification. The company that has let's call it impoundment. We don't necessarily call that at the police department,
Whatever
but that company only picks up abandoned vehicles for that process. That is what they've been awarded. Wrecked cars, those kinds of things that are involved in a crash, those are picked up by either by a preference tow, which is, for example, if you have Geico and they say, this is who you have to use, then it's up to the citizen to contact their own tow company and get them there. If they're like, I don't know what to do, which is about 85–90% of the people we go out with, we just call the next one on the rotation. And those wrecked cars end up at whatever impound lot that tow company has, which is part of the requirements, is they have to have a certain size lot that'll hold X amount of cars. It has to be secure. It has to have signage. It has to have the ability for people to come and go and go pick up their car if they want to and not have the insurance company fix it, so.
Right.
Mayor Kling?
Thank you.
Just for clarification, I'm not trying to support any company. I'm just, what I'm reacting to is is what I've heard from the community about the cost of trying to retrieve a car that's been either abandoned or been in an accident. I did reach out to Aaron in Mark's absence to get clarification as far as from legal, as far as what we can and should do in this regard. He basically even stated that his niece was in a minor accident last year that totaled her car, and the complaints that she had from her brother and all this about being able to find the car, find the tow lot, the costs associated with trying to get it. And this was from our legal counsel that I just saw it. And I think that's what I'm concerned about, is more of the impounding aspect of it. I don't care about who's towing it, but where it's being taken to. If it's hard to find and it's costly to get it back, and I was talking to another individual that cost him $300 a mile is what they charge them for like a 3-mile trip to take this car to an impound lot. That's ridiculous. If there isn't some sort of boundaries in place in our agreements, then I would ask Mark, what can we do to try to add something to this contract or the RFP process to try to limit the exposure that our citizens have?
Well, it certainly could be a matter of policy. Joe, the price sheets that you get from the folks on the rotation, does that become part of the obligation that they not increase prices? Have we addressed that before?
That is correct. It's for a year. And at that year, when we also open it up for other bids, we go back through their applications. We send our officers to go back out and validate their driver's licenses, validate their drivers, make sure their trucks are still safe and applicable, that their tow lots are well signed, well marked, easy for folks to find. Councilman Haverfield, if I could go back to that, if we could find out who that tow company is, the $100 a mile, I can tell you, that's way outside of what I have for documentation of the tow rotations that are in our current rotation. Again, if it's somebody outside the rotation, there is no regulation. They can charge whatever they want, and 9 times out of 10, the insurance company pays it without any question. The only hammer, if you will, for the folks that are on our rotation is that they're going to get bumped from that. They make a lot of business. We get 15, 20 crashes a week, so it's easy to go through a rotation in a week's period. And they make some pretty good money from the insurance companies for storing those cars. And if they don't get that option, because of something that they did outside of our tow policy, it's a pretty good hammer for them. So if nothing else, the folks that are on our rotation at least have to follow those guidelines, otherwise they lose the opportunity.
And I think you can appreciate what, if this information is provided to us by the citizens of Nampa with a concern, we can't just say, no, we're not going to worry about it.
No, I agree.
We do have to move it further down the road to make sure that we're doing our due diligence on their behalf.
And Mayor and Council and staff, I ask if you do get those kinds of complaints about tow companies, and it happens to be one on our rotation, that it comes to me so that we can make a note, so the next time we're going through our vetting process, we have that complaint to go back to. I did bring a stack of complaints so you can see the kind of stuff that we do see, and the stuff that we have to consider before we let them continue to go out and serve the citizens of Nampa and represent the police department. Because it's the last thing we want to do is put a citizen of Nampa in a hazardous situation or a financial burden for them because of something we did by calling that specific tow company out.
Mayor Kling, if I could. Oh, I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Lieutenant Ramirez, I've been on the other end of those calling those records for several years, back when I worked with you. So
Model A's and Model T's, I remember.
Well, I haven't seen you, so thank you.
You put yourself in there.
I'm there.
Yeah. Anyway, so let me clarify. Let's talk about accidents first.
Okay.
When you respond on the rotation, without the request of the victim or the driver or whatever, the one on rotation goes and responds. Is from his office to the accident, that's what they're responding to, correct?
Correct.
That's the fee they pay, or that we pay, correct?
No, we don't, if it's a crash and it's a non-preference tow that we are calling the next one on rotation, once they hook to the car, that's when they start.
Oh, that's when they start,
Yeah,
okay.
they have X amount of time to get to the crash, because obviously we have officers and citizens out in the middle of the road, and we need those cars moved. So they have to get there within a half-hour period. But once they're hooked up to that car, that's when the tow fees start.
All right, and now, my clarification.
Sir.
If they're tipped over and they take longer, if they need dollies, does the owner of the vehicle incur more money,
Yes, sir.
more costs?
Yes, sir.
Now, are those costs within realm of your RFP?
Again, the RFP has to do with the abandoned vehicles. Most of the abandoned vehicles that are picked up are usually right side up. Every now and again, we get one that is upside down, but we don't have to pay them anything to get that car towed away. The city of Nampa, the police department, that is, the trade-off for them is, if nobody, we send out certified mail as of July 1st. We no longer have to do certified mail, but prior to July 1st, we had to send a certified notice to the owner of the car and the lien holder of the car to let them know, this car has been towed and here's where it's at. If you want to collect it, you need to get a hold of them and figure it out. So the tow companies make money by the storage fees that they're charging until the person contacts them to collect that. Or if nobody ever contacts them, they have the opportunity to request an Idaho title and/or have the car crushed, and they make money in salvage fees, if you will.
Right.
Okay, that's for
Right.
impounds.
Right.
For crashes, what happens is your insurance pays that preference or non-preference tow. If they have to flip the car, if they have to do extraordinary circumstances, cut it, help get people out, those kinds of things that they do have all those tools for, yes, that's an added fee.
But the police department has nothing to do with that.
No, sir.
You can't regulate those fees, as is Councilman Haverfield was referring to, was
No, we
over and
don't,
above.
we don't regulate those, but when they submit those price sheets to us to let us know what they're gonna charge per mile, what they're gonna charge for a hookup, what they're gonna charge for, there's recovery and there's towing, basically. Towing is they load up a car and take it away. Recovery is any time that there's a car in a ditch, there's different kinds of services that they have to use, which obviously, like you folks in your regular jobs, if you do, especially like an attorney, if he spends a lot more time on a specific case because it's difficult, he's going to charge more, just like the tow companies. If they got to flip a car over and they got to do all those things, they're going to charge more. Yes, the citizen accrues those charges, but hopefully they have insurance, and the insurance usually covers it.
Well, and then especially if they're out of city, then they've got to go to Caldwell, Meridian, wherever to go get the car. That's what I'm also concerned with.
Within the city limits, we may have 1 or 2 yards. The rest of them are located within that 10-mile radius, and we use the city hall address to go to use our meter, if you will, to allow those specific companies to come in.
Okay, thank you.
So, as a follow-up to what you just said, if we were to limit our yards and the people on that rotation to Nampa-only companies, do you know how many we would have?
Mayor, council, and staff, this is a guesstimation, probably 5 or 6 only. The rest of the yards, they're large, they're eyesores for the most part, because you're looking at a bunch of junked cars. They get to the point where they're overcrowded. So a lot of the tow yards are just outside the city limits in rural settings.
So I guess the question, and going back to what Councilman Haverfield had mentioned, was that if we limited it to Nampa companies, it sounds like we, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe would not have enough companies in a rotation to service.
Mayor, that's a tough question to answer, because some of these tow companies have more than one truck. So, and it's not uncommon in the city of Nampa, a freeway crash, 9 times out of 10 involves more than 3 cars. So if we had only 5 on our rotation, it wouldn't be uncommon that we would get through that rotation and actually have 2 of the same company on one specific crash. Could we use up all those tow trucks? It's possible. Yeah.
Okay. So to move forward, I think that unless the council would like to take some action or propose action, I would like to recommend that you go ahead and provide council with that list as has been requested,
And then you guys can review the information and give it further consideration if we need to do something. I would not recommend us taking action right now because I think that there's more information that we really should be aware of before we ask staff.
And Madam Mayor, if I just think, I have, Councilman Haverfield, are you also asking in that list to have at least the prices included in that?
Yeah, the information that they have available.
Okay.
And I would
I
ask,
didn't hear that, so I think that's, would be advantageous to.
and Mayor, I would ask that we could continue this discussion to our next city council meeting as well, after the information is provided, if we want to direct the issuance of a new RFP as far as going forward.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I want to clarify, because there's a little bit of a slight, my direction or our direction, that they were proposing something for one vendor. I don't remember the name of the other vendor. So my concern, what got my interest is when the complaint came in, is that people were being way overcharged to get their cars towed, and that's still my concern. So I want clarification on that.
Madam Mayor and council and staff, Councilman Scott, can you provide the name of the tow company that was overcharging these folks?
Crossroads.
Okay.
I mean, that's the allegation.
Do we have a name of the person so we can do the research and figure that part out?
Well, that was the complaint of the competitor that was here at the last council meeting. So and that's what got our interest is, and that's why you're here tonight.
Okay.
It's our people being overcharged. The poor guy in the north end who barely has a car, breaks down, it gets towed, and there's no way he's gonna be able to afford or find it or have to pay extra. We wanted to have a low fee if we can.
Well, I will tell you, council, Madam Mayor and staff, that it's not cheap to have a car towed. It's $200 for the tow truck to show up and put a hook on your car. That's about the average. It's about $40 a day for it to be stored. And that's around the board for the 13, and you'll see that with the prices I send you. So just getting your car towed and stored for that one day, you're already into it, $240. That's a chunk of change if you don't have insurance. Now, if you're getting overcharged and you don't have insurance, there's some other issues there that probably should be discussed, because the insurance companies pay these fees nonstop, day in and day out, and that could be part of the issue, is that there is no question, and this is maybe why we don't have any regulation around the state of what tow companies can charge, is because the insurance companies are paying it regardless.
But we're not talking about the car wrecks, we're talking about confiscated, impounded, and abandoned vehicles.
It would be pretty much the same.
Well, insurance doesn't cover your abandoned vehicle that gets towed.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
That's,
And it could have been a long storage fee. I don't know what the circumstances were. If we knew what the circumstances were, we could please look at it.
So Councilman Scoggin Haverfield, thank you for your clarification of your intent. I appreciate you noting that. Thank you so much. And then I think we have clarity on what you're going to provide the council, and then we will include it on the next agenda. Is it?
Send it to Debbie.
Yes. Thank you, and she'll get it out. Thank you. Is there anything further on this item tonight? Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. Item 6.5, this is an action item to authorize the mayor and public works director to sign professional services agreement, standards, terms and conditions, and task order with West Consultants Inc. for the floodplain reduction alternatives evaluation for the engineering division.
so moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Lulu?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Thank you, Tom, for just staying there for the next number of items in case we need you, so. Okay, item 6.6 on the agenda is an action item to authorize the mayor and public works director to sign a task order for consultant services with Brown and Caldwell for fiscal year 2019 environmental compliance division technical support. Would you like a presentation on that one? Okay, Tom? Thank you.
Okay. Mayor, Council, so this is some assistance with stormwater compliance, and it's asking for a task order with Brown and Caldwell for fiscal year 19. It's about $116,000. You'll see towards the bottom of your bold items there that we've reduced this item from 50% from last year, doing more work in-house. And that was our goal, is that as we're bringing on staff on the environmental compliance, and we're doing more of this in-house. a good chunk of what we're asking for from Brown and Caldwell is technical assistance to help with the next stormwater MS4 permit. So we're anticipating to do a new MS4 in 2019, and we'll need some help with that. And that's the majority of what the big chunk of this is. Answer any questions?
And it is a time and materials-based
Yes.
request.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to authorize you and the Public Works Director to sign this task order as listed.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Hoagland?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Item 6.7 is an action item, and it's authorizing the Mayor and Public Works Director to sign the task order with Keller Associates to provide design and construction inspection services for the Zone E sewer rehab project.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Hoagland?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Item 6.8 on the agenda is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign a cooperative agreement, project number A020797, I-84 Karcher Overpass, Nampa.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
You got it.
Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Hoagland?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
I want to say on that item, I appreciate the fact that I-84 is funding that project. I-84, ITD. Yeah, there we go. So much for that one, that the funding of that via ITD. It's late. Okay, item 6.9 on the agenda. This is an action item to authorize the Mayor and Public Works Director to sign a task order with Paragon Consulting to provide design services for the Greenhurst Road rebuild, which is Juniper to Lambert project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Hoagland?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Item 6.10 on the agenda is an action item to authorize the Mayor and Public Works Director to sign the task order and contract with JUB Engineers, Inc. for professional services on Middleton Road rebuild, Greenhurst to Roosevelt Avenue project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Hoagland?
Yes.
And 6.11 on the agenda is an action item for the council to award and authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Western Regional Pump Procurement Project with Grundfos CES Inc.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Hoagland?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
There is no executive meeting this evening, and it appears that we have covered every item on the agenda this evening. Thank you, council, for your engaging questions and presence and leadership. It's appreciated, and I would stand for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.